Live from Deathray Studios in the sunny West Valley of Phoenix, it's Late Night with the Davey. Appearing on tonight's show, YouTube content creator KB Loves Movies. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Davey Deathray. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here, and welcome to yet another edition of Late Night with the Davey. Holy cow, you guys. This is the 30th episode of Late Night, and, I think we've maybe missed a week or two here or there, something like that, but holy cow, been going strong since, I think it was May of this year, so I'm really excited. This is going to be a very special 30th episode here with our guest KB Loves Movies. We're going to talk about our love of film. We'll probably get into some Christmas horror movie talk, maybe just some general Christmas movie talk. And, KB and I are both big time Yankee fans. So maybe we'll bore some of you guys with some sports talk as well. I know everyone in the chat just loves a good old-fashioned sports talk here in the horror YouTube sphere. Of course I'm joking. I know we got some sports fans out there. You guys that know me here on the channel know that I'm a nerd about a lot of things. What's that phrase? Jack of all trades, master of none. I'm kind of like that in the nerdy sense, I don't even know if I'm a jack of all trades. I'm just a nerd of all sorts. So welcome everyone. Really appreciate you. Really quick before we get cooking, we've got links for KB's YouTube, his Instagram and Twitter down in the description below. So please feel free to check out what KB does there, especially on YouTube. You know what I say every time is I'm not into the whole like telling you to blindly sub, but go check out the channel, watch some videos, see if it's for you, and throw them a sub if it's something that you think you're digging. So I just want to jump in and say what's up to everybody here really quick. Make sure I don't miss anyone. We got Big Rod, one of our great channel members. Big Rod, how are you doing? He is pumped and he is here and ready to go. And Big Rod inspired me to get that QR code right up there the other day because, super chats are great. Patreon, all that kind of stuff is great as well. Memberships are awesome here on YouTube, but if you want to give good old Davey the biggest piece of the pie, that's the way to do it. So if you're interested, if you're feeling that holiday cheer, just wanted to let you know. Let's see here. We got Raymond Malaber back with us. So great to see you, Raymond. I hope you are doing well. Everyone here was thinking about you. I don't know if you were able to, check out some of our lives from late last week, but we were definitely in your corner, rooting you on, and I'm glad to see you back hanging out with us here in the chat. Hope all is well, and you're recovering, nicely at home there. We got our life in horror. I'm guessing this is Sam, but if it's maybe both of them are hunkered around a phone or a computer. So what's up, Brendan and Sam? Hope you guys are doing well. Another channel you guys should go and check out and, watch some videos and see if it's your thing. They are going live all the time. They're always collabing with all sorts of folks. It's really fun. It's very eclectic over there, and they're always talking horror. So I can't miss with that one if you're a big, horror fan there. And we got Billy Judd. What's happening, Billy? So great to see you. Billy's been coming back here, the last handful of streams. So really appreciate that, Billy. Hopefully you've hit that subscribe button by now. If you haven't, please do. If you guys are watching after the fact, thank you so much for checking out the replay of the show. It helps out the stream so much, especially with our relatively, we're an up and coming channel here, so it really helps us out. Do me a favor, if you are watching after the fact, jump into the comments below. Just say what's up, say something. It extra helps, and all of that's free. So Yeah, and don't forget to hit that like button as well. We've got Leanna hanging out with us, one of our amazing channel members. Thank you so much for kicking it with us here, Leanna. And thank you so much for reaching out earlier. Really appreciate the conversation and the dialogue and the support and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't able to get back to you just because the last couple hours I've been getting ready for the show. But we will catch up sometime soon. That is for sure. Love seeing the support here for Raymond. Of course, we got to take care of each other and lift each other up as a community for sure. That's good to hear, Raymond. And it's, I would imagine it's just taking it day by day and looking for those little improvements there. Dean Renner, what's happening, Dean? One of our great channel members here. He's got the little Santa emoji. I love seeing that. Gotta love Santa, especially this time of year, right? I mean, how can you can't hate on Santa, right? Let's see here. Big Rod saying, hey, our life great stream today. I couldn't get home in time to be my usual smart ass self in the chat. Damn traffic. Yeah, you just gotta hit that microphone button and just do a voice chat thing, or just tell them to invite you in on the stream. And while you're in traffic, you can just be in on the stream commentating as they go through here. Let's see here. Who else do we have in the chat? We got MAGA Cat in the chat. How you doing, MAGA? Great to see you here. One of our amazing channel members as well. And he's always hopping around the horror YouTube sphere, of course. Who else do we got going on in here? We got Prince Showtime with the legendary king of the conversation. Yes, KB is the legendary king of the conversation. So basically, when I bring him on here, I'm going to let him run the show. I talk way too much. So yeah, we'll just see how that goes. We got Aaron Click in the house. How you doing, Aaron? Great to see you. All pro sports are fixed. Maybe, betting definitely calls a lot of stuff into question. I will say this, especially with like the NFL, it's starting to look, maybe depending on which team you're watching, it is starting to look more like sports entertainment, like WWF, WWE and all that stuff. It's looking more like that and less like, just the focus on the sport, especially, maybe I've got some Chiefs fans out there. I'm not sure. But especially if you're watching the Chiefs, when the focus is on like what Travis Kelce did with Taylor Swift in the off season and stuff like that. Like, what are we doing here? Let's get back to the game. Thank you very much. Raymond says, boo Yankees. Well, it's been a while since they've really won anything of note, at least for us spoiled Yankees fans. So you're getting what you want, Raymond. They've been on the struggle bus as far as getting that next championship. So, what can you do? We got Toronto Freddy in the house. How you doing, Toronto Freddy? Great to see ya. Let's see who else we got. Necro Mechanimal. So great to see you, Necro. I miss your musk. It's so awesome to have you back in the chat. I know there's a lot going on every night of the week. It seems like December is just kind of like that with the lives. Very, very active here on YouTube. I was hanging out in Killjoy Jake's channel earlier watching Black Christmas 06. That was fun. I quite enjoy that movie. It's far from perfect, but a really fun time. I don't like it nearly as much as I like the original, but yeah, good stuff, fun stuff. Let's see here. Holy cow, we are on the big screen. Oh my gosh, how big is my head? Is it just massive? Is it like a foot long and like 8 inches wide or something crazy like that? I'm guessing it is. Let's see here. Saw the Black Christmas vid, of course. Yeah, you are very much welcome. And yeah, I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't bring you up and wish you well there, Raymond. Holy cow, we got Jamie Hart, our OG Death Squad mod and one of our great channel members. Thank you so much for popping in, Jamie, and thank you for all that you do as far as the mod work goes. Hopefully it's a light evening for everyone in the mod team there tonight. Holy cow, Lamontre is not the first chat tonight, but he's hanging out with us. So great to see you hanging out in the chat, Lamontre. Hope you can kick it for a while with us, and hope everything's going well in your life, my guy. What's happening, Adrian James? How you doing? So great to see you. Welcome to the chat. Holy cow, we got Christian, Mr. Planet CHH. I'm sure all of you guys sub over there, but I'd be a total jerk if I didn't say if you're not subbing, you're missing out, especially if you're into physical media, especially if you're into just chill ass dudes talking some chill ass stuff. That's Christian to a T. The guy is like the the coolest customer out there in the physical media world for sure. Love what he does over on his channel, and always great to see you in the chat, Christian. Hope all is well with you and yours, of course. Holy cow, Brooke Scarlett, one of our great channel members and Death Squad mods. Welcome to the chat, Brooke. And we got a super chat from Toronto Freddy, $5 Canadian. Ooh, I hope is the Canadian dollar worth more than the US dollar right now? I know for a while it was neck and neck. Maybe the Canadian dollar is worth a little bit more. That's really awesome. Either way, thank you so much for the super chat. Toronto Freddy says, Merry ho ho yo, I wish I could give more. Well, no problem, Toronto Freddy. Any amount is very, very much appreciated. It's really cool. Hope you liked my Dock of the Bay remix cover. Oh, I love all that. I'll take all the Otis Redding you got, Toronto Freddy. So keep them coming. You know what I mean? Keep them coming. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Let's see who else we got hanging out here. All right. I think we've got everyone. Maybe I'm missing someone down here. You guys are very active in the chat. Love to see it. Love to see it. Hopefully everyone has hit the like button and participated in the poll. The poll question is, are you pumped for 28 years later? Right now, out of 15 votes, 73% of people have said, yes, it looks amazing. And 27% have said, nah, not really a fan of the series. And, you know, fair enough. I think the first movie, I really liked it when I saw it in the theater. And then the next time I saw it, I thought it was okay. And the third time I watched it, I fell asleep because it bored the hell out of me. And it just seemed really not good. Kind of derivative. It took some of the best parts from Day of the Dead, didn't execute them as well. It's got that weird, super ultra grainy digital look that just didn't really age well for me. And guys, I never even watched 28 Weeks Later because of how the first movie aged. So let me know. Let me know. Am I missing out on 28 Weeks Later? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. If you guys want to see me react to the trailer for 28 Years Later, I have not yet watched it yet. I'm sort of off trailers, but I'll do anything for you guys. So let me know if you're interested in that. You can definitely pull me back in if that's what you want. I got to give the people what they want. All right, guys, we have been chatting here for a good 13 minutes or so. It's about 20 after the hour. I figure this is a good time to bring in our guy, KB. Let me just clear this off the screen. Once again, thank you so much, Toronto Freddy. Really appreciate the $5 super chat. Yeah, guys, our guest tonight, KB Loves Movies. He is, as Prince said earlier, he's the legendary king of the conversation. He's got a really fun channel that's full of collaborations and just full of, God, it's like a kind of a back and forth, like a ping pong of, recommending movies, watching movies that people recommend to him. A very, not the same kind of stuff that you're going to get on a whole bunch of other, YouTube movie channels. It's really fun, lively stuff. Really, really excited to have a chat here with KB. We took part on a panel over on, look, there he goes. Speak of the Devil, Frank's Media and Reviews. But other than that, haven't really chatted. So I'm looking forward to getting this going. We've also got Wilkie's Movies and Music coming to hang out tonight. Thank you so much, Wilkie's. Really appreciate you. Big Rod says 28 weeks is an upgrade. All right, that is good to know. I am missing out on 28 weeks later. Okay. All right. I think I'm convinced. And let's go ahead and bring our guy, KB Loves Movies, into the mix, folks. KB, how you doing tonight, man?
What's going on? So happy to see you.
Hell yeah. I love the aesthetic you've got going. The red light.
Oh,
the red, what is that, a Kansas University top you've got on there? Is that what that is? Is that the Jayhawks?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So,
you got, and then the Yankees cap, of course. Of course I love you. You're a Yankee fan.
Born and raised. I tell people Phil Rizzuto used to put me to bed every night with my dad watching the game. So I'm not a bandwagon fan. I went through the hard years. Just like a
Hmm.
lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans, they went through the
Yes.
hard years and now they're
Yeah.
having some success. They piss me off weekly just by the way they win the games, but I
Gotcha.
just blow people out. We don't need all the drama, but
They're,
yeah, I'm a
they're
sports
like
fan.
they're kind of sandbagging until the playoffs, it seems like, with the Chiefs,
Yeah,
right? They're just like, oh,
yeah.
we just have to get there and then we'll actually turn it on, you know?
I hope that's the case. I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you can't hate on people when they have a winning team because you're just ignoring all the years where they didn't dominate. And
mhm.
I sent out a LOL to Raymond in the chat because he said "Boo Yankees." Boo the 15, 16 years since we sniffed the playoffs. That's what
Yeah,
I'm booing. But
yeah.
it's
A
it's
whole bunch.
sports, it's fandom.
Sure. A whole bunch of money and nothing to show for it for the Yankees as of late. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm one of those, I was born in the early 80s, so I started following the Yankees. It was probably like 80, 88, something like that when I started like falling in
hmm
love with them. It was, Randy Velarde and Don Mattingly was the best player
yeah,
there. And there was that big gap where not much was going on. But honestly, like what made me fall in love with them was the just looking back in time and, DiMaggio and Gehrig and
yeah.
Mantle and just I was like, this is the reason why we love baseball. The Yankees are such a big part of making baseball the
Mm.
American pastime. And so there was something about that really resonated with me. And fortunately, about 10 years later or so, they really hit a hot streak there.
Yeah, and that's what
And
people still reflect on when they say "Boo Yankees." They're like,
sure.
"You're spending all that money and getting all these players. We didn't
Yeah.
spend your money. What are you
Yeah.
complaining about?"
Well, and hey, a lot of those players like Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter were homegrown,
Yeah,
Andy
farm
Pettit,
raised.
yeah, Mariano
People are just
Rivera. There a
mad that
lot of those.
their players from their teams chose to chase the money. That has
Yeah,
nothing to do with the team they go to. Blame your players.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, nobody was knocking on Jim Leyritz's door before he became a World Series hero, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
uh, hell yeah. Well, tonight I thought it would be fun, KB, if we had a little chat about, the movies that made us fall in love with film.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool to reflect on that. But do you want to give a little, I sort of gave a bit of a rundown of what you do on your channel, but do you want to give a little bit of a pitch? What made
Yeah.
you start wanting to do YouTube and, what fuels you in your YouTube journey?
Well, for me, it was like a lot of people during the pandemic, and I just got back into what we now consider to be like physical media collecting. Back then, it was
Mhm.
just considered buying your favorite movies so you could watch them over and over again. So the VHS
Yeah.
days, the Laserdisc days, and then DVD came along and really changed the game. But for me, it was being home and coming across a couple of channels and liking it so much that I found myself talking to my phone or talking to the TV if
Mhm.
I was watching on the big screen like Brendan and Sam tonight. And
Yeah.
my wife said, you should do something like that because, you know, you talk to us about movies and we have no idea what you're talking about most of the time. We don't know what the quality is between a Blu-ray and a DVD. The Yellow
Yeah.
Brick Road looks the same to me. I was like, no, it doesn't. Look at the quality. Look at the upscaling. And
Yeah.
and it took me another 18 months to officially get started because I made the mistake, like a lot of people, thinking I had to have the right equipment and I had to
Mm.
get everything right and it had to be perfect. And the whole thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just go.
Yeah.
Just go. If you're passionate about something, it could be movies, it could be collecting, it could be
Mhm.
talking to people. And that's the other thing. I'm big on having conversations with people, not just about movies, but anything in general. And I was like, if all these people love movies, that would be a perfect group of people to talk to. And I remember the early days looking at people like Tony from Basement Blues or Kenny from
Mhm.
Middle Level Media. And I was like, oh man, if I knew him, I would ask him this, 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 and this. And then I would just go through it with different people.
Yeah.
And that's how the conversation came to be. And it was Stephanie from Movie Chatter that I was watching one of her videos, and that's when I came up with the idea for the conversation. And I'm like, you know what? if I started a channel, I could do movie reviews. I could do, hey, this is what I picked up this week, and I do that occasionally, but I don't make
Mhm.
it like a every week kind of thing. My whole thing is it's connection. It's connection for
Yeah.
me. It's connection with
Yeah.
other movie fans. I was just telling my friend earlier today, I said, if I go to a movie by myself, I'm more than likely walking out of the theater talking to someone who was in the theater that I don't know, single serving friend, about the movie.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's
Yeah.
just me. I went to see, there was a limited release of Trick or Treat, Sam, and
Mhm.
I caught the last showing. It was like a Thursday afternoon. Four of us in the theater. I had a conversation with somebody on the way out. So that's how it really got started. And, everyone just kind of got into the conversation. Everyone has been, for the most part, very willing and open to come on. And, you know, it's funny that we're doing this tonight because that is, I have 5 questions that I ask at the end of every conversation called the 5 takes. You'll go through it soon enough. And the
All
first
right.
question that I always ask is, what is the film that made you fall in love with the movies? So
Mhm.
this is basically me answering my own question, but in more context. So I'm looking forward
Hell
to it.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny, the Big Rod had said, "I know that feeling, KB. I might as well be speaking another language talking horror with my family."
Yeah.
And same, I can absolutely relate. I'm fortunate enough that my oldest brother works in show business. He's a 3D map painter. So
Nice.
he and I can like really nerd out about all the minutia. We sort
Mhm.
of watch movies the same way where it's, try to be the most educated or thoughtful audience member you can be, and
Mhm.
hopefully the more you watch, the better you become as an audience member. But it's interesting because, yeah, I'll watch a movie with my wife and turn to her and be like, "What do you think?" And she's sort of like, "It was scary," And I've done the same thing where I'm like harassing people went and saw Thanksgiving, last year when
Mhm.
it came out, and ended up talking with a couple, that were sitting next to us. And then when Evil Dead Rise came out, I was like stopping people and like, "What did you think? I feel like a jerk. I really wanted to love it. I just kind of like
Mhm.
liked it,
Right.
like." And it is funny. It's like, even whether or not I've had a couple beers or something like that, I'm still gonna be the chatting up the strangers, bringing
Mhm.
the strays home with me. um, so yeah, that's awesome that you had sort of like that support of like, yeah, you need somebody to go and talk to these things about. You've got something to say, and I think that's really important for people to remember. Even if somebody's hanging out in the chat tonight and they're thinking, should I start a channel? Well, it might be really tough. And you know what? Like you were saying, KB, you don't have to be super polished. I think sometimes, like, the fact that some people are very much not polished actually helps them, because people can go to TV if they want that. You can turn
Right.
on any sort of other media that's already there if you want something that's like, reading off a teleprompter and all that stuff.
Mhm.
YouTube is where you come for all the mistakes and the ers and the ums and the nervousness and the
Yeah.
anxiousness of it all. And the more you do it, I'm sure you know this, the more comfortable you get,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I look like I should be holding up a newspaper with today's date on it on my first video. And I remember it took 2 days and I don't know how many attempts, and my wife stood behind the camera and said, "Just talk to me.
Yeah.
Talk to me." I was
Yeah.
like, "Um, hey, it's KB and I love movies." And
So do
and
you
it stuck, and I say that every time in every video now. So
So did you
that's
did
all
you
it
get
is.
like you get a cardboard cutout of her or something and just put it right behind the
I
camera?
should. I should. I don't want to say I don't need her anymore, but I don't need that encouragement as far as being comfortable, because you're right. The more
Yeah.
reps you get in, the more comfortable you become. So and to me, it's almost like I get like a nervous energy, like I'm excited to talk to someone. So
Yeah.
most recently, I had the couple from Perf Damage podcast. He's a camera utility guy at Jimmy Kimmel. She works for
Oh,
Paramount
wow.
Pictures doing film restoration. So, film geek couple. So
Wow. Yeah.
I'm like super spazzing to talk to them. and that nervous energy just comes across as at least my form of excitement. I'm never going to be that big over the top person because that's fake. That's not me.
Sure. You have to be yourself.
I'm going to bring
Yeah.
my own energy. And for the
Yep.
people that are like super polished, what you're hiding is your true passion, especially when you're talking about movies or music or whatever you're discussing. You want to feel that passion that the person has behind the camera.
Yeah, and you know what? I struggle with the I talk about it all the time here. Doing the pre-recorded stuff is where I get most nervous, because here on the lives, it's like if I mess up, whatever, I just laugh it off. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I've got the support of everyone in the chat. The community is super awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I'm sitting there trying to do like a recorded video of my thoughts and organize everything, and
And editing.
I totally get stage fright on it, which is silly because I played music for years. I did stand-up comedy for a little bit, but then when I'm just sitting there looking at a camera, I mistakes abound. So
Yeah.
so that I guess that's why I sort of gravitated towards doing, something like this that's a little more interactive. And wow, speaking of cardboard cutouts, really quick, we've got Frank Riker from the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast jumping in with a $5, showing the love. Thank you so much, Frank. Really appreciate you, man. And he's got all sorts of cardboard cutouts
Oh yeah.
behind him. I have to figure out where he got that Kathleen Kinmont one. That one, I'm gonna need that one for a little project. Thank you so much, Frank. Really appreciate you, man. It was great hanging out with you and Darren in the members only chat here earlier today. All right, well, KB, let's just go ahead and jump right in. I had messaged you on Insta. We were talking about, maybe going back to childhood, the movie that sort of kickstarted everything. And then, at least in my experience, I don't know if your experience was, similar in some sort of way, but later on in life, like I fell in love with movies at a young age, and then probably my late teens, early 20s is when I was like, oh, I really love this, and I love
Yeah.
this in a way where I do want to nerd out the same way that like I'm a big music nerd. So to dive into film that way as well, there you go. Yeah, imagine that, right? And so yeah, what was the movie when you were growing up, or the movie that sort of sparked everything for you, that made you, it just opened up your eyes to what this kind of visual storytelling medium could be?
For me, I'm born in 1970, so there I was, 7 years old, and this came into play.
Yeah.
This is life changing. This is generation defining. This is franchise moving. Everything from toys to the movies themselves and everything else.
Yeah.
And for me, it went from not even being a science fiction movie, because I'd seen science fiction movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, if you ask Lucas, not that anybody's talking to him lately, he calls it a space opera. And
Sure.
really what it is, it's just like being a musician. You listen to Bohemian Rhapsody, and Freddie and the guys called it an opera. They even
Yeah.
put opera elements in it. So this is a space opera to me. People see it as a sci-fi movie, whatever, but the movements to it, just like a good song, as you go from 4 to 5 to 6, or as we called it, Star Wars to Empire to Jedi. It's what brought me into not only watching movies, but it became like a modern day serial, because he took elements from that, like episodes that would be on Saturday matinees of Flash Gordon, and had you
Yeah.
waiting until the next week to find out. We just had to wait like 2-3 years in between.
Yeah.
And in particular, my favorite of them to this day, I have on my wall over there, I have what we call the Holy Trilogy, and the one in the middle is Empire, of course.
Yeah.
And that was a movie where I learned that poetic justice doesn't happen in every movie, because every sitcom I'd seen up until then, every movie I'd seen up until then, by the time the credits roll, things were resolved. Good guy
Settled.
won, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And when the credits came up on that, I was like, what do you mean it's over? Blew my little
Yeah.
10-year-old mind, because the good guys didn't win. And
Yeah.
there was more to come, but it felt incomplete. And I just remember being a kid and like saying, this is like no other movie I'd ever seen. of course, as you get older, you have different movies. They kind of glom to different generations. So, you know, the original trilogy might not be for everybody. The prequels definitely could not be for everybody. The last three, I don't know who they're for, but it's for somebody. But the thing
Yes.
is, it's like that was the first time I said to myself, I want to watch this movie over and over and over again. That
Yeah.
technology didn't exist at that time. It was a few years until we got VHS at home. So
Yeah,
it
you
was,
had to wait for those CBS Fox VHSs to come out, right? Wasn't that the first time with
yeah.
the little lines in between? I
Hmm.
remember that logo because CBS and Fox were together at that point.
Yeah, and
Um,
it wasn't something you could own immediately. Those tapes were like anywhere from
100
90
bucks.
to $150 because they were
Yeah,
set up for rentals.
yeah,
So you weren't gonna like take them home like you would with like a 4K or something today. So that
yeah.
would be the first one for me.
That's a damn good one. I do want to touch on that because we can't just let Star Wars hang there, right?
No, you know,
And
just put it out
it's and even myself as an 82 baby, I have four older siblings, so I was sort of like it's almost like Star Wars is just something I knew about from
there.
like the dawn of my consciousness. I don't remember a time when Star Wars wasn't in my life in some way,
Right.
whether it was like playing with the hand-me-down toys that my older brother had. I grew up in a very rainy place in Southeast Alaska, so I would find there was a spot near one of our fences where the ground dipped and it would always fill up with water, and that was my Dagobah where I'd take Luke and Yoda and
Right.
all that stuff and play
The
out
little
those
tin of
scenes. But
toys.
yeah, yes, exactly. And it was one of those things where yeah, I mean, as a kid, it was just the storytelling was like a symphony. Those first three movies,
Hmm.
and not only in Empire does it end, not happy for the good guys, but it ends with all these questions, and you're sort of like, I would imagine at that time in 1980, when you're seeing it in the theater as a 10-year-old, you're like, is that really his dad? Is that like,
Yeah,
is he lying
yeah.
to him? Like you need to wait 3 years for an actual resolution.
So that's
Um,
exactly what happened. Flash ahead 3 years, Jedi drops. We decide as, you know, non-rebellious school children that we're going to cut school to go to the
ho,
first show, and we're standing in line with other kids from other schools, and that was the question of the day: is that really his dad?
yeah, yeah. Is
So,
he just playing with him? Is it some sort
mhm,
of yeah? And even though Jedi, I think we look back on it differently now because people talk about the Ewoks and maybe it's a little bit on the campier side, or maybe Lucas was just I know he didn't direct the film, but maybe just a little more aware of making it leaning into the kids thing. But I
yeah,
still think that last act of Return of the Jedi is some of the best editing and pacing that I've ever seen in any film. Jumping from the forest moon of Endor to the Super Star Destroyer to the Death Star, like going from all
right.
of those just back and forth. I've thought this only recently when I go back and revisit those movies. Very like Shakespearean. I
Hmm.
think there's something very like old, kind of old timey storytelling and very poetic, and that all that stuff with Luke and Vader and the Emperor. I get goosebumps every time I think about it, and I
And
love a
you
good
see
redemption arc.
you see the influence in it in not only other movies, but you look at even future sitcoms. So if you watch like the first season or first season and a half of Seinfeld, it's hard to watch those shows because they're so bad. And then they adopted kind of like the same formula like you're talking about in that third
Mhm.
act of Jedi, where you have multiple storylines going on and you're doing this cut back and
Yes.
forth, and all of a sudden it works, and
Yeah,
all
they
of a
they
sudden
weave
you
right
back
at the
to hit
very
a
end.
million per episodes. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly. Yeah, everything converges at the very end and it ends in like the perfect like right before the punchline. I love that
Mhm.
about those Seinfeld episodes is it's sort of like you laugh because like what the joke is, but they don't have to tell you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, man, those original Star Wars films, I always think of them. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, "Oh, they're not actually sci-fi because it's space fantasy." Like, it's got like a high fantasy kind of
Yeah, yeah.
feel, like the Black Cauldron or like, Lord of the Rings or something like that. But yeah, it is in space. There is definitely that that sci-fi feel with everything. Yeah, so wow. So going from Star Wars and, you know, cutting class to watch, you know, Return of the Jedi,
Hmm.
was there a point later on, maybe, you know, what, so you're 13 there in 1983. So was there something around like 1990 or something that kicked things up a notch, or were you just like full bore all throughout childhood as far as, you know, film
No,
fandom goes?
I'll go back a few years and then I'll go ahead a few years.
All
So
right.
over your right shoulder, stage left, you have one of the reasons why I didn't watch horror movies as a little kid. And I mean, it was pretty much decided those are not for me. And I remember seeing the commercials for Dawn of the Dead, the Romero one, when it came on, and
Hmm.
I would either run away or turn down the brightness on the TV or whatever it may be, just not to see it. And then I've told the story before on my channel. I went to my friend's house because he got a VHS copy of the biggest selling VHS release of all time, the Making Michael Jackson's Thriller. So I went to check it out, and it was over. We had watched the whole thing, and he's like, "You got to go home yet?" I was like, "No, I think I could hang a little bit. Why? What's up?" He's like, "Oh, I just got another movie. I got you know, that Nightmare on Elm Street movie." And I
Oh,
was like,
damn.
immediately, like my head got cold because I'm thinking I don't do horror movies. So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to say no because then I was going to, you know. So I was like, yeah, put it on. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. I was
Yeah.
so wrapped up in this person you couldn't escape because everybody had to sleep. And then
Hmm.
right at the same time, opened a video store in my neighborhood. And I'm like, okay, so there's this guy. I remember the Halloween guy, the Shape, and I just started watching horror movies, and that was it. That was
Nice.
it. I got so hooked, especially with 80s slashers. So that
Yeah.
was what, 85, 86, and pretty much the whole decade of horror movies and especially slashers. I just got into it, and eventually I went back and I met Bruce, and we've since become friends. We had our rough times, but Bruce and I are now friends. I have my copies of the first two somewhere back there, but I don't know. There's something special about that time that we will never be able to recapture. And I don't care if I'm an old guy in the room. I'll put it out there like this. Besides golf and Coke, there was a lot of reasons why people got movies made in the 80s. And it was mainly because studios wanted to take a chance.
Yeah.
And today, it's the stark opposite. They want the
Hmm.
sure thing. They want the sequel. They want the book adaptations. And those are the sure things. That's why we have another Evil Dead movie coming out. And,
Yeah.
you know, anything that will definitely work in their eyes, they'll go with it. But in the 80s, anything goes. Anything
Yeah. And
goes.
it's interesting. It's like now, it seems like now they just want to spend so much money on productions. And I think that's
Mhm.
kind of the issue there. It's not so much that they're only willing to take a chance because they figure, oh, if you're not going to spend $100 million on a movie, like that's where you need to start. A
Yeah.
100 million is like low budget now, you know, for Hollywood. And it's like 200 or 300 million is like the standard for these
Yeah.
tentpole movies. So yeah, the risk is way greater. But
Hmm.
back in the day, they were just throwing like 1 million or 2 million at these young filmmakers and letting them make something that could, gosh, if it didn't make the money in the first run in the theater, it was going to go to the
Video.
drive-in, and you know, drive-in and video, of course. Yeah. And so I do like that. About what I love about the Evil Dead specifically right now is that it's still the same guys that, you know, made those original films are producing and making all those decisions. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the great things about that franchise. Like Sam, Rob, and Bruce are still calling the shots. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I don't know how big the budget is on those movies, but I love that we've got that control, because with Jason, the rights are in two different camps and they can't agree on anything. With Freddy, I think the Craven estate has it, and who knows what they're waiting for, what the plans are with that.
Right.
Hopefully they figure something out. And then at least with Halloween, Malik Akkad is very much interested in moving Michael forward. So even if you don't like all the movies that they put out, like
Mhm.
he's still, you know, very, very active. But yeah, it's the landscape has changed quite a bit. And it's gotten to the point now where it's like we're already remaking Harry Potter, I guess, because
Yeah.
it's been 20 years. It's like, what?
And
What
we
just
we have
happened?
we have movies from the 80s that we would have loved a sequel to, but the fact that we didn't get a sequel makes that
Yeah.
movie even more special. Like,
Mm.
I really wish the big joke in History of the World Part 1 is that History of the World Part 2 is coming, and for the majority of my life, we never got in. That made it even funnier. And then
Yeah.
they turned around and they made it some cable special. I don't know. But
Yeah.
this is going to go on one of my year's best, and that's to see the first one, talking about the Craven Estate, finally
Mhm.
letting this be released by Warner Brothers from New Line. So if we could get the other ones, I'll be first in line because it is still my favorite franchise. He's still my favorite slasher. He's on the Mount Rushmore as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Freddy is, man, especially the first, like the first few films, and I really love. I've really warmed up to part four, and I really
Mm,
love New Nightmare as well.
yeah.
But yeah, it is something about Freddy really stood out, especially back then because he was the first killer that really had that personality.
Hmm.
And yeah, there was a totally different, you know, that supernatural edge that was full on supernatural, you know, whereas Michael and Jason, there's something supernatural about them, but it's not very well defined. You know,
Right.
with Freddy, it's very well defined. I remember seeing that movie for the first time. I was probably like 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old or something like that, and definitely made an impression. And I was already into horror at that
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, but
um
that was my foray, like really like to dive into it, and going from like renting videos to being in college. I I say this, I had the unique opportunity to not only work in a record store in college, but also a video rental store. And
that's
that
awesome.
covered my two loves right there. So it was like I've forgotten movies that I've seen because I've seen so much, and we won't talk about music and live shows and all that stuff. I used to be a DJ, so my collection varies from all different genres, from my dad's Jefferson Airplane before
Mm,
Starship,
yeah.
and Harry Belafonte, Engelbert Humperdinck, Burt Bacharach, all that easy listening crap, to
Yeah.
calypso, soca, reggae, all the way up to me discovering my own collection and hip hop and R&B and rock and punk and ska and grunge and
Mm,
everything going forward. So all over the
yeah.
place.
I'm a big punk and third wave ska guy and some metal,
Mhm.
but really a bit of everything. Yeah, I mean, when once I really dove into stuff like the REO Speedwagon, like the deep cuts, not just the ballad hits, I was like,
Mhm.
man, these guys have solid
They
records
rock.
like through and through. It totally opened up my eyes to like these guys are rockers.
Yeah.
We only know the soft stuff because that's all the radio really played, but they've got some bangers on those
Yeah.
records, you know.
It's
And
it's
it's
kind
funny
of
too
like,
that you.
oh,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You're the guest.
Thank you. I'm not used to being a guest. I was gonna say it's kind of like with movies when you see an actor who's always the good guy, say Jimmy Stewart, and then you see him
Hmm.
as the villain. That's
Yeah.
what finding out like a ballad, like a soft ballad, or easy listening group can actually just like kick ass and rock.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so much fun.
They had to do the soft songs because that's what the record company told them. They're like, all right, guys, that last one was a hit, so can you just do the same thing, just a
Yeah.
little bit different this time? And yeah,
Mhm.
and that's how that business goes. It's funny that you said that you worked at a record store and a video store. I didn't do those things at the same time, but I have done both of those things. I worked at a independent record store in Juneau where I grew up, and then actually worked at a theater there as well. And then I ended up working at a Blockbuster in the early
Nice.
2000s. So I got a little bit of that as well. Yeah, Lil Boozy Burt brings up Rope. That's a really good one. Jimmy Stewart doesn't get to play a
Yeah.
bad guy, but that is one of the most, I think, the most underrated Hitchcock movie, at least that I've seen.
Yeah.
Um, really, really good stuff.
Big big Hitchcock guy too. I my ooh, you can't see it, but somewhere in the middle there is pretty much all but one of his movies that are in print. So
Oh,
I pretty much have almost the entire filmography. I love his
hell
stuff.
yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's like, Hitchcock, Kubrick, and then from there it goes to guys like Spielberg, and it's like pretty much those three guys, like most filmmakers are inspired by them in
Mhm.
some way. It's like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Like everything sort of derives from that. Even if the people that are making music now don't even listen to those groups, little do they know.
Yeah.
They're still those are the bands that sort of like stretched out what like rock and roll and pop music could be, and
Yep.
I feel the same way. Yeah, Hitchcock and Kubrick, and it's really cool to see that stuff still, even with something like Long Legs, like with Osgood Perkins style, that he
Mhm.
definitely has that thoughtful camera placement. I even think some of the later Rob Zombie stuff, not the Munsters, but like Lords of Salem, very symmetrical, or even somebody like Wes Anderson, very symmetrical and very,
I gotta
you
get
know,
into zombie stuff, man. I got most of the movies somewhere back there, and I just say one day
they're yeah,
I'm gonna sit down with a drink, and I'm just gonna
yeah.
run through them, run through
You
like
you
how.
have to you have to
Oh,
set your expectations. It's sort of like prepare yourself for some bad script writing.
mhm.
But visually as a director, I think he knows what he's doing. I think the movies look good.
I could
Um,
appreciate
and I'm one of those weirdos where I think his Halloween 2 is much better than the remake. I just don't see much of a point with the remake.
it. Maybe.
Uh,
Those two
but
I have watched. I watched
okay,
because it's Michael related, so I've
yeah.
watched his two Halloween movies. But that second one, I need somebody to explain that to me without drugs. That's all I
It
can.
is it is it's a pretty wild one for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
Rob Zombie's stuff is a whole different. It's almost like he should have, they did the Texas Chainsaw remake in '03, and it's almost like he would have been better equipped for that, especially
Hmm.
because House of a Thousand Corpses is basically a TCM movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of that movie, but it's your similar, people end up in a small town and everyone in the town is in on the hellish game kind of thing,
Mhm.
very tried and true horror trope. So KB, moving on from, so we've covered what 77 through 80 there. We
Uh-huh.
got, I'm guessing 85, 86. You said when you probably were able to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Um, and then what sort of, what from there like really drove it home from you? And then, you don't have to give me the full story, but how has your film fandom changed recently with like the advent of digital media and even physical media getting like way more exciting than it's ever been? We're probably in the, I mean, of course, I guess you can say it's always going to be the apex of where it goes, but we're in a really exciting
I,
age with all the boutique labels and everything. So
yeah.
tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it was my girlfriend at the time, her little sister's sweet 16 party, and it was freaking hot that day. So I went inside to get a
Mhm.
drink and see what everybody else was doing. And it was a Saturday. HBO had the feature presentation, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and they were showing this film.
Mm.
And for those that don't know and they're wondering, what's the answer to your number one question on the five takes? Goodfellas. So I went from years of video rentals and watching movies and rewatching Star Wars for the 5011th time and all that to watching this movie. I said, well, I'm standing here. I'll watch a few minutes. It had just started. I think he had just said, all my life I always wanted to be a gangster. And that
Mhm.
line just caught me. And I stood up and I realized an hour and a half later, I'm still standing there watching this movie. And
It sucked you in.
thank you, Jamie. And yeah, it sucked me in. And I'm like, wait a minute, voiceover, like a film noir. Wait a minute, it's a different voice now? I've never seen multiple voiceovers in one movie, and the needle drops. Yeah,
Yeah.
needle drops. I had family that loved doo-wop and 50s and 60s music, and he's changing it like every other scene. I'm like, wow.
Mhm.
And the part that got me as far as the music was playing that second part of Layla in it. and using that the way he did in that scene. But the scene that moved me from just being a movie watcher to what some people would say is a cinephile. I don't consider myself a cinephile because I'm still learning. But when you watch the Copa scene and they start on the street and they go through and all to the back and then they come to the table and I'm standing there watching and I'm like, wait a minute. They never cut away. It was all one long take. And that was fascinating. Who made this movie? Martin Scorsese. Oh, he did Raging Bull. And it went from there. So for me, you were mentioning directors. Mine are Hitchcock, Scorsese, and then because of growing up in the 90s, Spike Lee. Those are my three. And just everything from choice and reuse of actors and crew members. His DP became a director himself, you know, things like that. Always popping people like Denzel into his movies. And then going forward, when, you know, getting those favorite movies turned into collecting with DVDs and all that. One day I'm at work and we have like a buy sell trade forum and someone says, oh, I got the Royal Tenenbaums. And I was like, cool, $5, I'll take it. And then I realized they bought it from Hollywood Video, so it probably wasn't even $5. But I'm like, what is this Criterion collection? And I started watching, I'm like, wow, this has a lot of special features in it. I'm not used to that. And then like 2 weeks later, I went and I bought the only copy, the only way I could get Kevin Smith's third movie, Chasing Amy. I'm like, there's that Criterion collection thing again. Yeah. That got me hooked on boutique labels. So it wasn't like an Anchor Bay or, you know, a Twilight Time. It was Criterion Collection. And half of that shelf over there are Criterion Collection movies. And I continue to this day. You know, I just got these two in before I left for vacation. I just got back from vacation when, you know, one thing is, how are you? We've been talking on and on. I'm like, I got to ask you, how are you doing? You know?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I had to go back. Yeah, last Thursday, I ended up going back to the doctor because I had been there the week before, and they gave me a little something to try to help with my eyes. But yeah, everything is looking back to normal now. They gave me like a steroid cream. So within like seriously by the next day, everything was looking so much better already. So I've just got one more day of that treatment and should be good to go. But yeah, it was, man, a couple weeks of just like, is this ever going to end? I went on like the internet and read about it, and they're like, it could last for weeks up to your whole life. And I was like, oh, I should have never read the internet. Why did I listen to the internet?
I left the next day for vacation, and I literally got back. I just got back. So to Frank's
just today?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Earlier question about, you know, am I still on vacation? No, vacation's over, and it's cold back in Kansas City. That's all I got to say. I was waking up to having breakfast at 87 degrees. This is too damn cold for me.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Even out here in the desert, like it's really nice during the day. Don't get me wrong. Nothing to complain about. Mid 70s, stuff like that when the sun's out. But tonight, it was, I went out earlier just before the stream, and it was like kind of hazy, foggy, and felt like it was like 40 some degrees out here, which that's the desert. In the winter. Yeah, once the sun goes away, it's like you're on the dark side of the friggin' moon. It just it gets freezing right away. Yeah, you know, doing well. And yeah, I think, you know, like what you were saying about that one shot in you know, in Goodfellas, it is, you know, it's really cool. Scorsese is just sort of, I think a lot of people think of him as that sort of like gangster director, but I mean, you know, in the last like 20 years or so, I do think that he's stretched out a little bit and done some things that, you know, of course, he always kind of keeps that in his wheelhouse ready to go. But, you know, movies like Shutter Island, that one, I mean, talk about Hitchcockian. That one reminded me of straight up Hitchcock. You know, love the music and I love the imagery in that movie. I didn't see anything with the twist coming. I was just there along for the ride. It was like one of the first really big movies that my brother worked on. He did a lot of the matte painting for like the cliffs in that movie and everything. And So there was something about like it was like extra magical, you know, jumping in and watching something like that. But
That's
yeah,
so
there, man, Goodfellas in a strange, it's like I know it's sort of dramatic and sort of serious, but there's something really fun. The chemistry that the actors have, you know, Ray Liotta is like extra on point in that movie, you know,
R&B.
just yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's he was a really fun actor. Yeah, love him in that one for sure. And yeah, I mean, you know, as far as like my, you know, the movies, a lot of people in the chat, you guys might know what some of these answers are going to be as far as the movies that sort of like shaped my love of film. I mean, I was probably like 5 years old the first time I saw Jaws, and that like I became obsessed, not just with watching the movie, but you know, going to the library and renting out National Geographic VHS tapes and checking out books about sharks and just trying to learn whatever I could because they were so fascinating to me.
Mhm.
You know, and then of course my older brother, who you know is now working in the industry, he got me into Star Wars, and then I think we watched Alien, the original Alien, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like the same day when I was probably like 10 years old, something
Wow.
like that. But really, like in my late teens, early 20s, um, you know, seeing The Evil Dead, seeing the original Night of the Living Dead blew my friggin' mind. I was so enthralled by that movie, and I was just like, I can't believe a black and white movie from 1968 is this good. And it like, you know, nowadays when I watch it, I'm like, all right, a couple of the performers are pretty cheesy, a couple of them are very, very good. But it was just one of those movies that kind of opened up my eyes to like, wow, you can say something in your movie. You don't have to like hit anybody over the head with it, but you can have like a message where people can enjoy your movie just on a pure entertainment level.
Mhm.
Or if they're looking for something a little bit more, they can find that. And I feel
A
like
good deep.
Romero kind of made that his thing where it's like, I'm always going to make sure you can enjoy my movies. And then there's something there for you if you want to dig a little deeper and see, you know, what I'm trying to say about how society was at that point in time, a little snapshot. And then, yeah, similar to you with the Criterion stuff, when I was working at the record store in Juneau, it was great. I had an awesome discount. And then people would also bring in their movies to sell. You know, so we'd have a used section. If I saw anything I was interested in, that was like even more attainable for me. So I started watching stuff like Citizen Kane and Network, which is one of my favorite movies. I think it's one of the best scripts. You know, those movies just kind of took it to that level where I was like, all right, like I am in it to win it. Another one that stands out, True Romance, is another one where I was like, holy crap, this movie is friggin' crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, mostly I grew up watching a lot of comedy, so like a lot of silly stuff, like the Jim Carrey stuff, and you know, some of the Saturday Night Live movies, like Wayne's World, or uh, even you know, Caddyshack is another classic. So pretty eclectic on the film side, but yeah, kind of you know, somewhat similar journeys. I think one of the cornerstone moments for me was, or touchstone moments, I guess, was seeing Halloween 2 on TV when I was like
Mhm.
9 years old. And immediately I was sucked into just watching Michael walk down hallways. I was
Yeah.
just like, that looks really cool. And I told my parents, I want to dress up as that guy for Halloween. So my dad took me to the drugstore. We got some, you know, there were no Michael Myers masks back then.
No. No William
So
Shatner mask.
none of that. So I wore black sweatpants and black sweatshirt, and I painted my face white with some black around my eyes. And I got
Right.
this little knife that like retracted so you could like stab it and it would go, ah, like it had a cheesy little scream sound.
That's cute.
So that was one of those moments where I was, you know, felt the support from my family of like, yeah, you can watch these crazy effed up movies.
Yeah.
um,
You mentioned too, I think it was the first one when it was on NBC for the first time, and it was Halloween night. It fell on a Friday. These memories that I keep. It fell on a Friday, and then after the late news, if you stayed up, there was a TV show on Friday night called Friday Night Videos, and their
mm,
big thing is they were going to be showing Michael Jackson's Thriller for the first time. So we wanted to watch it, and we ended up watching Halloween, but it was a TV version, so it's like
Yeah,
you get the elements, but you know you're not getting the gore. And it
exactly.
wasn't that much
Yes.
gore in that one anyway. So
Yeah, so pretty much they're probably just not showing you the boobs
hmm
or anything like that. Same thing with when I first saw Friday the 13th, it was on like the USA Network,
yeah,
so it was very sanitized and but still very exciting, I still count it as the first time I saw the movie, even though I didn't get to see every little thing there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was and then maybe that's why my parents were okay with me watching. I grew up in a religious home, but my parents had a pretty relaxed attitude. I'm the fifth of 5 kids, so by the time I came along, they're sort of like, we
yeah,
tried doing all that other stuff with the other ones, and we
it's hard.
realized it just wasn't important. It just didn't really matter too much. So they were very supportive of all my weird interests.
There was one time, the same thing with me. If it was on TV, if PBS, whatever, my parents didn't care. We didn't have cable growing up, so it was kind of like if it's on TV, it's safe. And I
Hmm.
still remember we had like a bedroom that we converted to a TV room, and from my mother's bedroom, she hears, "And we now return you to the best whorehouse in Texas." And she runs in the room like, "What are you watching?" I was like,
It's a
"Dolly
Dolly Parton
Parton.
movie.
Dolly Parton. She has boobs? What?"
Yeah, what are you talking about, Mom? What's a
Yeah,
whorehouse?
yeah. What is the whorehouse?
It could have been a lot where you could have been watching Porky's. You would have thought you were watching some sort of WB cartoon, and here you are watching, a vile.
Yeah,
I say that jokingly. I think
yeah.
Porky's is
By
hilarious.
by
But
the teenage years, I literally had a Porky's poster on my wall.
yeah.
So
Hey,
couldn't
hey,
stop.
talk about a movie that works on multiple levels. I think Porky's is one of those. I think if you put it out now, people wouldn't really get it, but I think that
Yeah.
that movie teaches some very valuable lessons, albeit with some harsh language and some ugly displays. But I think one thing that people sort of forget nowadays, I don't know how you feel about this, KB, there are ugly people out there that say and do ugly things. So just showing that existing in your movie isn't, you're not saying that it's okay. You're probably
Made me
using it
clear.
as a storytelling mechanism.
Mhm.
you know, Everyone would get so upset about. I remember when Hateful Eight came out, and I was
Mhm.
living in Portland at the time, and a whole bunch of people in my circle were like, I just can't watch Quentin Tarantino movies anymore. I'm not going to watch this movie because of the language he uses. And I was like, so you'd watch the other 7 movies, but now you've just had enough. Like, it's called The Hateful Eight. All of these guys are bad
Hateful.
guys. It's just relative to one another,
Mhm.
And it
Oh,
seems like we have not many filmmakers really seem to have the license to kind of take those chances anymore. It's
yeah.
only guys like Tarantino, really. And, even Romero, I feel like he really did that too. Like, you hated the bad guys in his movies because he wrote them so well. And he wrote them in a way where you understand them or you understand where they're coming from, but you still want them to die.
Quick question for you, since you brought up True Romance. Have you ever seen his short film, My Best Friend's Birthday?
I never have, no.
I think you could look it up on YouTube, but you'll see a lot of the script writing that went into True Romance originating
Mm,
there.
my best
I
friend's birthday.
we took a film class and we watched that. Then we went right into True Romance. It's like, that meme of Leo popping up and pointing at himself on TV. So
Yeah.
it was
Or
like
and
that.
it's or sort of like a demo, like when you hear a band, or maybe they put
Yeah.
out a record before they sign the major label, and then
Hmm.
on their first major label release, a few of those songs show up, but they're like actually produced and like
Yeah. Polished.
fleshed out, and yeah, exactly, yeah, that kind of thing.
Pretty much.
That's really cool. I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah.
That's it's really interesting, and it's interesting to think of like what would True Romance have looked like if Tarantino had been able to direct it instead of Tony Scott. I mean, Tony Scott's great. Don't get me
Did a
wrong.
great
And
job.
yeah, and perfect for that kind of movie. I feel like going back and watching a movie like, Beverly Hills Cop 2, like I can totally see that Tony Scott's got that flavor, even back then. Another RIP, unfortunately,
Definitely.
with Tony Scott. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. The My Best Friend's Birthday. I
Just a
got it
short
pulled up
film.
right here.
Yeah, you could run through it really quickly.
Hell yeah. Now, KB, what about during the holidays? You know, I would imagine, you know, most people seem to have their holiday staples, and I know that it's a Venn diagram. There's a lot that we all probably share, the classics. What sort of classic Christmas films do you have or that you watch every year? And do you have any like kind of deep cuts, or do you have some that are maybe like a guilty pleasure? Christmas film, horror or not, of
Yeah.
course.
Well, because I have 3 kids, they're in their 20s now, but younger, when they were younger, you know, you watch all the classics with them, from Mickey's Christmas Carol to,
Hmm.
you know, later on the Elves and White Christmas, which is one of the restorations that lady Charlotte just did. Um, so I ran out and got the 4K to check out her work. Pristine,
Nice.
excellent. But I, you know, just to start having the circles meet, I still enjoy the original Black Christmas. You know, it is
Hmm.
dated, but I still enjoy it. And
Hmm.
not any necessary like guilty pleasures, but every year I'll pick out one hokey Christmas horror movie and watch that. So like last year it was It's a Wonderful Knife.
Hmm. I
And
just watched
you
that
see
one just
Justin Long, I'm
yesterday.
in. If I see Justin Long, I'm in. I don't care what
Yeah,
it is. It could
he's
be
very
Tusk, it
entertaining.
could be Barbarian, I'm in.
Yeah.
It could be a Mac first PC old commercial, I'm in.
Oh
So
yeah, he was that guy. He was that
yeah,
guy. Or even something fun like Accepted, or like his comedy
yeah,
stuff works really well too. Yeah.
yeah. So that was last year's. I haven't watched one yet. And then, you know, typical fare, your Silent Night, Deadly Night. I just got back into watching that every year recently. I really like watching Scrooge for some reason, even though Bill Murray is just playing Bill Murray. He's not, you know, playing the role from the Dickens story. He's just being Bill Murray, and to me, that's
He's
good. And Bobcat Goldthwait, talking about comedians, stand
yeah.
up, yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, Scrooged is my all-time favorite Christmas film.
seriously,
Yeah, it really hits me. It's like I love a good redemption story.
hmm
And I think that like Bill Murray just really does bring a lot of like classic heart there. And like the end of the movie, just him like talking about wanting that miracle and getting greedy for it. And
yeah.
I don't know, I get goosebumps. It makes me tear up. Like it's just one of those, I think it's such a perfectly executed version of that story. It would be so
Cool.
interesting to know what Charles Dickens would think of something like Scrooged.
hmm
Um, and yeah, that's just one that's always sort of resonated with me. But you know what, KB? I've never seen Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Dude, you should check it out. It's
Okay.
easy, good fun. I won't say much about the sequels, but I don't know,
Yeah.
something about that first one is just fun. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I think that it's I don't know why I haven't seen it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I heard it was sort of cheesy or whatever, but it's one of
Mhm.
those things where it's like I just have to watch it. You know, I just got to bite the bullet and be a good horror fan and watch a classic horror movie and quit being a little bitch about it.
I'm trying to find my phone because a couple of years ago, I got to look this movie up. A couple of years ago, I went to a film festival and they showed this Christmas movie. Um, and there's like, it's talk about multiple stories going on at the same time. It's one of those, and it's one that has Krampus in it. So right there, it's fun. It's not Krampus the movie, but
Mhm.
it is a movie with Krampus in it. I'm working Letterbox as quickly as I can here.
Is it? Have you seen the one? There's like a I think it's an anthology that's out there on Shudder. It's like a Christmas horror story or something like that.
That's
I
it.
think that's an
That's
that
what I'm talking about. So
because
that's
that's got a
my
few
low
different
key
stories,
one.
right?
That's my low key one right there because
Okay.
I asked people about it. Yeah, A Christmas Horror Story,
All right.
2015.
I'll have to check that one out. I dig
Yeah,
the anthology approach because even if you're not feeling it, You're like, oh, well, it'll be over
story
in
that
10
you will
minutes.
take. You
Yeah.
know the story too well. But what I like about it is that when I ask people about it, they say, "Oh, Krampus." I'm like, "No, not Krampus." But
Yeah.
something about that movie. Check it out if you've never seen it
All
before.
right.
A Christmas
I
horror.
will. Yeah. It's on my list over on Shudder. I just haven't checked it out, but I'm always whenever I hop off a stream, I'm always like, oh, it's the perfect time to
Yeah,
put on
to
a
throw
little
something
movie
on,
and
pull
yeah,
something up. I do
exactly.
the
Yeah,
same
have a
thing.
little snack. Yeah, I mean, man, you mentioned the original Black Christmas earlier. You know, we did a watch party just the other night, and then we read some half-star reviews on Letterboxd. That was hilarious because people were very, very upset about things that are sort of part and parcel for like all horror movies.
Mhm.
And of course, you know, you get some people that must be relatively young that are just like, this movie's misogynistic and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, you ever seen a slasher? What,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
You want to what I found is you want to rate a movie for the time in which it was made. If it has a
Sure.
rotary phone, there's going to be patriarchy issues in it.
Yeah.
That's just a given. So you bringing it up now in 2024 means
Yeah.
you didn't get the show. Straw man, totally straw man. You
Exactly.
did not get the show. You have to put it in the context of the time.
Exactly. Because it's like, hey, things were sort of like that in a sense back in that time. So yeah, movies are it's like you know, to some degree, it's always going to be an exaggeration. A lot of movies are going to like fall into stereotype kind of territory. That's just the way that you write a character in a movie because you want people to be able to relate. But yeah, it was really funny I think one of the funniest things was like, it's like with Jess, you know, the implication that Jess dies at the end, it's like they wanted to punish her for wanting to get an abortion. And I was like, whoa, I'm like, you are projecting what you want to, like,
how
that's
high
kind of
was
messed
that
up.
hurdle you jumped over?
Because I'm thinking to myself, I was like, I thought they were pretty fair about how I feel like in that movie, they sort of dance around that subject in a way where I actually think the audience is supposed to agree with Jess, you know, that like, she's not ready for marriage and a child and, you know, they don't come out and smack you in the face with it, but it seems like that's sort of like kind of where they're leading you. I mean, she is your main character. It's not it's not Peter from 2001: A Space Odyssey with his terrible piano playing or good piano playing. I was, you know, I don't know. Sometimes when I hear jazz or something, I can't make heads or tails with it. It was Peter doing a bad job. I'm just like, he's just banging on that thing like he's never played it before. But yeah, it was really funny to read those reviews and just think about, you know, I get it. It's a 50-year-old film. Calling it boring, I totally understand that. But I was very shocked to be like, wow, is this half-star review from like the Christian Coalition in 1980, or is it from some 22-year-old in 2024?
Could be both. You never know.
Exactly. What about you like the 06 remake or that 2019 remake at all?
I haven't seen the 2019. The 06 is okay, but I don't know what it is. I'm really, really like particular to the original. So it's almost like when you make a remake of a movie, you have to bring something original to it. So that's what I like about the 06 is that it's not a carbon copy storyboard, you know, scene for scene kind of thing. But I try not to compare. That's the thing. I try not to compare them. But yeah, I would love to. Maybe I'll check out 2019 this year because I've honestly, between the last 3 weeks, I've been in my house like 4 days. So I need to spend some time and just hang out at home, you know, put on the fireplace kind of thing, hug the dogs, watch some movies. I got all the stuff here unopened.
Get a little cocoa.
Yeah, a little cup of chair, man. Be good this time of year. So that's what I was gonna have, but I'm trying to rehydrate after 7 days poolside. So that's all I got.
There you go. Yeah, you have to recover, right? It's good to take a break. It's good to the fun of indulgence is to take that break so when you indulge, it feels extra special,
Yeah.
right?
If anyone
Except for
wants something to drink, Google search mariachi as a drink. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, that was your
Drink
bread and
only.
butter on your trip?
That was everybody's bread and butter on the trip. And we were like warning each other. 2. Your limit is
Yeah.
2. Not an hour. 2. I don't think
Oh,
anyone adhered to that.
no. So is it some sort of, I'll have to look it up, but it sounds like it may be some sort of Long Island iced tea situation where it's like 17 different kinds of booze and it comes in a tall glass, but it
No, I'll
tastes
break
like
it down for
nothing.
you. It's it's a margarita mixed with a pina colada.
Okay.
And you mix those two together and you taste no alcohol. Therein
Wow.
lies the danger.
That is
It
the
goes out like
danger.
a slushy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'll have to check it out. Maybe I'll have to make myself one. Maybe that's what I'll do
Break out the
for
blender.
Christmas. Yeah. I'll have a couple, I'll sneak in. I'll fill up like, those like bladder bags you can bring when you go
Oh
hike.
my gosh.
I'll sneak in. I'll go watch Nosferatu and sneak in one of those on
I'm
Christmas.
excited for that. I'm excited
Yeah,
for
me
that.
too. Yeah, Robert Eggers, I mean, he's such a, beautiful way of making films, and the scripts that he and his brother write are just out of this world. I mean,
Yeah.
when I watch a Robert Eggers movie, I have to put the captions on because I don't want to miss any of that dialect, especially
Yeah.
watching The Witch. I was like, this is friggin' brilliant. Like
I love
this
that.
movie is so disturbing and so awesome, and like they really like bring you back and take you like put you in that time and place. Like, I read about how they like went back to actual texts from that time and made sure to like copy the syntax and the words that were used, and they did their best approximation of like what might these people sound like, because you figure you're still going to have your British or Irish or whatever, your accents are going to blend over time, right? Because now
Yeah.
I always think that Americans sort of have a flat accent for the most part, like, unless you're, living in Brooklyn or you're in the deep
You
South,
got
like,
extremes, but for the most
yeah,
part, yeah.
like you and I sound relatively similar in our accents. I grew up in Southeast Alaska, and you grew up
Brooklyn, New
in
York.
Brooklyn, New York.
But
Yeah.
get me around a couple of New Yorkers, and then all of a sudden it's like, we're going to get a bagel, egg, and cheese with some coffee. What are we doing?
There you go. Get a couple mariachis in you, and it's all
Yeah.
out the window, right? Oh yeah, man. Yeah, the 2019 Black Christmas. You are gonna need an adult beverage. It's like funny bad. I think it's so over the top, like Me Too era kind of stuff, that it's almost like you're like, is this a joke? Especially somebody like me that lived in I lived in Portland for about 10 years, and the way that some of the characters talk in that Black Christmas movie, I'm like, I've actually fucking heard people that talk like this. It's wild. So I actually got some my wife and I watched it, and we would pause it at the most ridiculous moments and then just sort of rip it apart and then push play again.
Plausible Mystery Science 3000.
Exactly. Yes, which is to me the greatest television show of all time.
It is great.
Who would have thought? It's like, I call it comedic Dadaism. It's like you take this movie that had no purpose beforehand, and then you just make fun of it, and now it's great. And now everyone knows what Manos the Hands of Fate is. No one would have known what Manos the Hands of Fate was. I bet not even. I heard that Tarantino has a copy of that on reel to reel, like on film.
Sure he does.
I bet you not even he would have known about that. I'm guessing he's a Mystery Science Theater fan. Now, let's see here. What other I'm trying to think of another Christmas. Are you a Christmas Story guy? Are you a fan of that?
Okay, because I didn't have cable growing up, and the 24 hours of it being on.
Yeah.
I didn't get into it until later in age. So I get the jokes. Fragile, we say it all the time. It's Italian.
Yeah.
I get all that. But the thing that I like about it is the reason why TBS could put it on for 24 hours is because it's nothing but short vignettes.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of that movie. It's just like little short stories. You have the same characters, but
Yeah.
it's little short stories. So if you missed that first one, it's okay. We'll come back around. But
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
you can
Well,
just watch these little stories take place.
yeah, and Gene Shepherd was just like, I mean, just one of the most charming stream of consciousness kind of storytellers. Did you ever? Wasn't he on the radio back on the East Coast? Was he
I
on the
believe
radio
so.
when you were a
I
kid
think
out
it was
there?
on CBS or something like that, WCBS.
Yeah, and he's just, I'm jealous of when I worked at the record store in Juneau, the owner of that store grew up in Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
Mm,
And I think he was probably born, I'm guessing mid 50s, something
yeah.
like that. And so he grew up listening to Gene Shepherd, and I was just like totally jealous. Like that's the kind of
Wow.
stuff I nerded out in my early 20s. Like, I wish I could listen to Gene Shepherd all day, like
Wow.
because there's just something about the way he tells those stories
Mhm.
in that movie. It's just like it lays on it's like half of the charm is just his voice and that passion and that enthusiasm. He would have made a great YouTuber, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, our podcasts are just on the voice alone.
Yeah.
It's something about the relatability, even if it's like an environment you didn't grow up in. A story like how he has it in the movie is relatable because it's either something you've lived through if you're older or something
Hmm.
you could identify with. You could identify with your mother putting on, 50, 11 layers of clothes on you just to go outside and
Sure.
play. And then you can't really be mobile or, you know,
Yeah.
wanting that one gift and you didn't care what it was or if it'll take your eye out or whatever the case may be. You just wanted that gift. So
Yeah.
just relatability is such an important thing in storytelling. And he gets it. He gets it totally.
Yeah, just something that really he captures that Midwestern charm and all that, just
Hmm.
yeah, what it is to be a kid and everything. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Now, are there any as far as modern filmmakers out there, who in your eyes is out there writing the relatable stuff, like the films that really pull you in and maybe have like a timeless sort of feel to them?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Sorry, I hit you with the heavy stuff there.
No, because it's one of those that it will just keep taking me deeper and deeper the more and more I think about it. Off the top, I can't come up with one, but
It's kind
I
of
will.
tough, huh?
Yeah, because once again, does that sell?
Yeah, filmmaking, the industry has changed so much that it's
Yeah, I'm
you
I'm
know, I
more I'm more likely to think about directors. You mentioned Spielberg before,
Mhm.
J.J. Abrams. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if they're doing like a sci-fi movie, like the Star Trek remakes, or if they're doing something dramatic like a Super 8 or even
Yeah.
Spielberg's um, sort of biopic about his family.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Meet the Fablemans or the Fablemans,
Fableman.
or is that
Yes.
okay? I'm mixing Meet the Feebles by Peter Jackson with Spielberg's heartwarming tale of his childhood.
I think it is the Fablemans, but
Okay.
it's more direction than
Mhm.
storytelling. But
I mean, that's a big part of it, right? I mean, like
yeah,
understanding sometimes those two things are married, right? And then just understanding the best way to tell the story visually and the best way to, direct the actors
yeah,
to get that delivery that you're looking for and hit that emotional point that you're looking for as well. But yeah, it is tough as far as writing. I'm sort of like, well, Kevin Smith back early on sort
yeah.
of had that, like, he might be one of the last ones that sort of had that relatability, at least
There's a
early
lot
in
of
his career.
messages. We were talking earlier about surface
Hmm.
level watching, as I call it, and then
Hmm.
also looking for things that are deeper, especially when you look at the horror genre the last couple of years. You
Yeah.
you see familiar themes if you're looking past the surface level. So you're seeing familiar themes of trauma, you're seeing things like not mental issues, but mental I don't want to say mental breaks, but you have certain things, and just thinking back to last year, Talk to Me, that grief, a lot of
Hmm.
mental grief
Yeah.
involved, and it's always underlying. So you could have this surface level thing like, "Ooh, you touch a hand and it does freaky things," but then
Yeah.
you look and you're like, "Ooh, what's the story with this girl?"
Hmm.
Something deeper, and then you see little elements like, if you've seen Talk to Me, there is the color yellow anytime the main character is in the room, either her wearing it or somewhere in the room. And
Hmm.
then you have to, well, what does yellow connotate? It's kind of like
Yeah.
taking back to like The Godfather, and every time there's a scene with danger, usually with Brando's character, there's the color orange, even down to
Oh,
him being by the orange stand when he has the attempted murder. So
yeah.
it's like colors and familiar themes over tropes. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm attracted to. Things like The Substance this year. That's not a Me Too movie, but it's like, this is why we hate ourselves, and this is what you make us do. And
Yeah.
it's not trying to be super feminist or anything like that, but it's saying women hate themselves because society makes them obsessed with being a younger version of themselves.
Sure.
And I my wife has seen it, my daughter has seen it, and they like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they say. They could just say, yeah. Because
Well, yeah.
every beauty product is basically saying, you suck, look better.
Yeah.
Ozempic, lose
Oh,
weight,
geez. Yeah.
whatever it is.
Once you're past 25, you're old and ugly, lady. Like
Yeah,
it's this really odd, like, whoa, 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 what? Really?
yeah,
Whereas like guys, like, Patrick Dempsey was like 61 when he won Sexiest Man Alive.
yeah.
It's just
And the
like,
more you feed your younger self, the more your older self dies. It's so fascinating. That
mhm.
movie has levels. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's one of the most intellectual movies I've seen this year, as far as like discussions.
That's one that I still have to watch too.
Dude, see it.
And I'm
Just see
sure
it.
I have the feeling that I'll really dig it for, I haven't listened to any reviews really. I've just seen what people have said about it, like in little
Yeah.
blurbs. Seems like it's totally up my alley. The trailer that I saw, I was like, oh, this seems like, dark comedy horror, like,
Mm-hmm.
the
Body
perfect
horror.
blend. Yeah, and the body, and when being an Evil Dead fan, like the body horror, that works for me for sure.
Yeah. A
But
lot of
yeah,
Cronenberg.
yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, Cronenberg's the king of body horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about the whole, I do see what you're saying about, the characters, especially in modern horror, having that like overcoming, the mental aspect of going through something, like, or just surviving something.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be like a big part. It's kind of been, I mean, I guess it's sort of always been there, but it seems like it's a little more, nowadays people are trying to get a little more creative with how they approach that.
Yeah.
Um, and then even something like, I really enjoyed, well, obviously, because the name of this show, I really enjoyed Late Night with the Devil. And I thought that was a movie, like, I'm a big Twilight Zone fan,
Yeah.
the OG Twilight Zone. And I'm like, man, that's the kind of movie that sort of feels like an extended Twilight Zone episode where there's this, this character, this very relatable, charming character. And then you start to find out about the dark things in his past. And even though we get the version that's totally collected and, polished, everything behind the scenes is, not that way at all.
Yeah.
And so, it is really cool that horror keeps on doing that. I think 2024 has been an amazing year for horror because there's
I
been
agree.
all sorts of subgenres, like a movie for everyone in
Mm-hmm.
the horror sphere. And
A lot of
he,
crossover too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like Long Legs, where it's like, is it horror or is it like a 90s cop thriller?
Mhm.
Like there was tons of movies back then that would never have been considered horror if they were like something like Long Legs or even like Alien Romulus,
I was
sort of
just
like,
thinking that. Is
Yeah.
it
And
sci-fi? Is it horror? You know,
mhm.
what category, if you had to put it in one genre and just one genre, where would it land? You can't
Yeah.
do that anymore. It's like all
It's
this
tough.
cross-pollination of genres and subgenres. It doesn't fit in one box anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't, and they just keep on, stretching the creativity. What's happening, Mark? Great to see you, bud.
You guy.
Uh, one of our awesome channel members out there. Yeah, even with like where they're going with the Evil Dead,
Mhm.
I always talk about the damn Evil Dead. I just can't stop doing it.
That's okay.
I'm sort of at this point, I'm like, man, they can do whatever they want with this franchise now. Like you could set a story at any time and place, in the Evil Dead universe. It's sort of like it's one of those things where it's like that is the best sandbox to play in right now.
Yeah.
Just make a good movie, make a good horror movie, and then have Sam Raimi come knocking on your door and say, "What kind of Evil Dead movie do you want to make?" And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Is that if somebody were to say, "Hey, KB, you can make an Evil Dead film," what sort of thing would you do with that?
I wanna go back to that recording. I wanna go back to the events that led up to that
Mm-hmm.
recording taking place. Finding the book,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing initially the things that made people into Deadites, and just how did he get away in order to make the recording to warn others, and the irony of no one actually paying attention to the warning in all these
Yeah.
different years. So I don't know. You were talking about it before. I know you talk about it often, and say what you want about it, but when the worst movie is still a good movie or a decent
Yeah.
movie, that's a perfect franchise for me. You could put
Oh yeah.
Riders as the worst of the bunch, but you can't tell me all the other films weren't like awesome too. Or you could put Darkness as the worst if you're not into it, but you can't
Yeah.
say any of them are bad.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about that franchise. They're all great. And here's me doing my conversation thing. So, Davey, what would you say is your rankings of the Dead movies?
The Evil Dead movies?
Yes, sir.
I would do so I would go Rise, Army of Darkness.
You're going up,
Oh,
right?
sorry, no, I'm going back.
Okay,
So
okay.
what, there's 6 films in the franchise, so I'd go Evil Dead Rise, Army of Darkness, uh Evil Dead 2, uh Evil Dead from 2013, and then The Evil Dead, the original.
So,
I'm sort of in the when I first got into those movies, Evil Dead 2 was like my most celebrated. I was like, "Oh my god, this movie's so damn fun." Ah.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then the more and more I watched them, I was like, that original movie is just so punk rock and so
Mhm.
ambitious, and I love everything they pull. Whatever they want to do in that movie, they find a way to do it. And like it's just one of those movies that shows me that when your back is against the wall, even if there's only 3 or 4 people on site. I read have you ever read The Evil Dead Companion, that book?
No.
S-
I want to say, um, who was it that told me that that's what encouraged him to get into film? I want to say it's Convicted Cinephile. So Derek from Convicted Cinephile told me that that's what convinced him to get into movies was just Evil Dead and reading The Companion, and then he was hooked. So
Yeah, it's crazy because at some points in that movie, everyone like cast and crew, the movie took too long to shoot. It was like a record-breaking winter in Kentucky or Tennessee, sorry, where they shot it. They left Michigan to go shoot in Tennessee because it was supposed to be warmer, and it was totally flipped.
yeah,
Tennessee got hit by a storm. So a lot of the cast and crew were like, well, we have school. We have to get back to school. So at the end of the movie, it's literally just like Sam, Bruce, and like Ted,
yeah,
hanging out, or Ivan. It might have been, one of his brothers hanging out there with him. So it's crazy that like, even with all that, they're like, F it, we still have to finish this movie.
that's so awesome.
And it was the movie that made Peter Jackson go out and do Bad Taste because he read that Sam Raimi put it together over a bunch of time, and so Peter Jackson was like, well, what if I just like start shooting a movie and I can only shoot on the weekends? Like I'll just do that, and I'll at some point I'll make my movie. So it is crazy to think that those three guys from Michigan that decided they were going to make a little movie like went on to inspire so much. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the quintessential cabin in the woods movie. You know, it's essentially the first movie in that sort of subgenre. Yeah, it had a very profound effect on the way that I looked at filmmaking and just, yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that I was going to be into like demonic possession movies with extreme amounts of gore, but the first time I watched that movie, me and my friends just had a friggin' riot. Like it was just like a party.
I love it. I love it.
But when Linda gets stabbed in the ankle with that pencil and everyone in the room is like, oh, you know,
like,
yeah, just like, what, give me more. What's the next thing you're going to do? And I guess that's my real only complaint about Rise is I felt like they sort of, so a couple things. They gave us the best or the most extreme moments they showed us in the trailer, which I thought like, oh, it must be if they're showing this in the trailer, because the 2013 movie showed some good stuff in the trailer and then really took it far. Yeah. And so I thought, I thought Rise would sort of like push it a little bit further than it did. But I do think it's a really good, healthy mix of like, you know, there's some good homages to Evil Dead 2 in there. I felt like it is like you said, there's not a bad movie in the franchise. I think it's the strongest horror movie franchise, in my opinion. I know people usually bring up Scream, but I think the last two Scream movies have been like C+, you know. But yeah, I'm pumped for Evil Dead Burn. I have no idea what it's going to be about. Part of me thinks that maybe with that title, it's going to be like witch hunt era Salem. You know, like maybe the instead of, you know, all these young women are getting accused of witchcraft, but what's really happening is that like some cleric in the church has opened up the book and read from it, and it just so happens that all these people are getting possessed by the Necronomicon. Just because it's called Evil Dead Burn. I don't know why. I'm just like, oh, they would have burned the witches, right? So Evil Dead Burn, maybe it's and I think that would be like, that to me is one of the most fun things. Like when I just sit there and stare at the sky and think about, daydream about what an Evil Dead movie could be. I'm like, what if the book, because they say there was 3 books, right? So they're like, what if one of the books was on the Santa Maria? What if what if it was on one of Columbus's ships? Like, or what if maybe you take like a historical one, like a ghost ship from history where they found a ship floating, no crew, they don't know what the hell happened, and you sort of work an Evil Dead story into that. You know, like showing how the story. Yeah, and showing how the book came to the Americas and like what it did to the population here. I think another really interesting one would be like colonial North Africa in like the late 1700s or was it the 1800s? So you know, you've got this era of like unrest all along northern Africa with the French and the English there, and then working in an Evil Dead story within that group, within that kind of time in history, I think could be really interesting. And then an old Western. Old Western would be great. Some dude rides into town. Everyone in the town's acting really, really nervous. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. They're all staring at him. And little does he know that they're like, you know, on day 2 of dealing with this demon thing, you know, something like that. A very like, you know, a very limited kind of story. I'll let Tarantino direct that one. How about that?
We need fan fiction. We need fan fiction for that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be fun. Could be fun. What is there? So is there like a horror franchise or a franchise just in general that is near and dear to your heart that we haven't touched on tonight that I would be remiss to miss having a chat with you about?
No, I mean, Star Wars, of course, Nightmare as far as horror. But yeah, I would say Evil Dead is up there as well. I can't really think of anything. Every October I do something, of course, you know, horror related or something like that. And I already decided for 2025, I'm doing franchises. And then
nice
to bring in the conversation element, I don't care if you've been on before or not. I'm just gonna bring in lovers of certain franchises. So when I get around to the Deads, the Evil Deads, I'm gonna say, "You ready to come back on?"
All
And
right.
you got to come and drop like 150 did you knows. That's all I.
Okay. I'll reread the book just so I'm all,
Yeah,
packed up full of information and
we'll
everything.
end with a ranking and then we'll go from there. So
Hell yeah. Awesome, man.
I think
Well,
that's what I'm doing.
heck yeah. I love that idea. Because it sort of lets you, it's good to have it mapped out, sort of
Hmm.
like what you want to take on. And it's cool to sort of have like your channel, like, oh, that was like season 2025 where I did
Yeah.
franchises, like that you kind of have like, that each year sort of could have a theme,
Hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like an absolute blast. Now Star Wars, I do want to touch back on that really, really quick.
Sure.
Did you like any of the sequel trilogy? What did you think? I know you kind of mentioned it earlier. I like The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
For what it is, I totally know what it is. Like I get that it's a soft reboot,
Yeah.
but I felt like it gave me those like right away when Poe Dameron is in the tent when he's talking to Max Van Sydow. Sorry, I don't know all the characters' names.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just was like, oh, I already have that 80s Amblin kind of feel going, or that sort
Yeah.
of
I
that
would say
warmth.
that one for sure. Out of the three, um, I'm usually disappointed with the way things end. TV shows,
Yeah.
last chapters of franchises, whatever. And yeah, for all these decades that I've loved this franchise, if that was quote unquote the last of the saga, of the
Yeah.
Skywalker saga, I'm like, ugh. But
Yeah, it
yeah,
was pretty rough.
Force Awakens gave that necessary nostalgia while introducing new characters. The Last Jedi was too much of a why was this necessary? And I
Yeah.
understand people always like give us something original. We're tired of the same thing, lather, rinse, repeat. And I met Ryan Johnson when he like days after he got we lost Davey.
Oh no. Don't worry, I'm here. My
Oh, you're back.
computer's just freaking out. And then I have to do this, put my pale hands up in front of the light so it gets back to the right color. There we go.
Yeah. So Ryan Johnson, like days after he was brought on to direct it, and his big thing is he's like, I'm gonna go left of center.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, woo, chanting, yay, whatever. And then when he did, everyone's like, well, we didn't want that. Yes, you
Yeah.
did. You asked for this. You asked for that. You asked to be different. Dare to be stupid.
Yeah.
This is what you got.
Yeah, I think, it's almost like if they just if JJ, so JJ should have been,
all three, it would have been great.
he should have been smart enough at the very least when they signed him up. Because I think they initially brought him on to direct, and then he was like, I need to rewrite this script. So they did that. And then after the success of Force Awakens, it was like, now JJ's a producer. They like brought him on as a producer. Maybe it happened while they were making the movie. I'm not sure. But, I'm like, at that point, he should have said, look, my grounds for being a producer is that even if I'm not directing the movies, I'm writing the stories and I get like final approval. So no movie gets made without me saying, cool, that's what that has enough of what I had in mind. To at least give Ryan Johnson some, hey, you have to hit these milestones, tell the story you want, but we need these things to happen, because it does seem like he just sort of, it's almost like when I watch The Last Jedi, it's like you don't really need the movie before it in a way.
Yeah.
Because most of the Star Wars movies sort of start in the middle of action anyways. And then it just seemed to be, I'm like, this is a space chase. It's like Mad Max Fury Road in space. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
one entire storyline that by the time we got to the end of the movie, it was like, we didn't need that.
Yeah.
We didn't need it at all. So, and that's the Rose and Finn story. So,
oh yeah, it's unfortunate because they don't do, I read I watched a video on YouTube where, the original episode 9 was going to be called Duel of the Fates, and Colin Trevorrow was going to direct it. And they have a whole script written for it, screenplay. So people have like animated it and put it on YouTube. And Rose is a big part of that movie, but she does stuff. Like she's actually like a character that is like part of she's a part a cog in the wheel or whatever, you know. She's like, whereas it felt like in The Last Jedi she was just there to be like, look at that's not good. And I'm just like, what are you doing here? Like what is happening? Yeah, I also felt it was odd that I was like, so no one wants to tell Poe Dameron what the plan is, but we've been told the whole last movie he's like the best pilot in the galaxy and he's a massive part of their operation. But all of a sudden in the second movie, they're like, you're a man, you don't need to know. And it's just
let
like,
him be a leader.
But yeah, we don't need to harp too much on Star Wars. I was just curious to know what you thought. I haven't been good about keeping up with the TV shows because they've sort of, in more ways than one, told me that they don't really want me hanging around anymore.
I've given up. I think the last thing I watched was Obi-Wan, and I walked out of there saying, this should have been a movie. Instead of 6-parted, it should have just been a movie.
Shit. Okay. I'll have to watch that series because I never caught on with Obi-Wan.
There's a cut that's like a 2-hour cut of all the episodes. Somebody, fan edited together, and it plays very well. It plays like a concise movie that makes sense, where you still get the major plot line, but you don't get it like doing one of these numbers. So
that's one of my things that I'm always harping on is TV does a lot of time wasting in storytelling. And I think but movies, it's like you can still do all those things in a movie, but you at least, even if you're going to tell a grander story with multiple parts, you still have to have those 3 pieces in every film. Whereas in TV, they just stretch everything out. It's breadcrumbs for years. And then you're like, I just watched 8 hours of this thing and they only resolved like one of the 7 plot points,
I've moved away from television a lot. I know you're seeing a reflection of the light on my collection behind me, but a lot of those is just plastic because I haven't cracked them open and watched it. So because of that, I tend to just pop in a movie. Like I have this thing I do with my wife. We call it date movie. I forget how. It's off of Prince's song, Dance Music Sex Romance. Date movie shuffle, whatever it is. But we just put all the unopened, unwatched movies that she would be interested in on a wheel of names. Instead of scrolling through Netflix or saying, what do you want to watch out of all of this? I just say, hit it. It chooses. Hey, I guess we're watching Cruella tonight. I guess we're watching Red Eye tonight, or whatever it is. And, I know she's not going to watch Terrifier 3 with me, so I don't have that on the list. Thank you, friends. Date night movie roulette. Yes,
there it is.
That's it.
I went and saw Terrifier by myself for the same reason. I knew my wife wasn't going to watch it with me at all. She can't watch Black Christmas. She doesn't want to watch any of the Child's Play stuff. And Terrifier. They're really, I mean, speaking of Christmas movies, I want to be mindful of your time and everything, especially with you coming back from your trip. I don't want to, keep you hanging on forever. But yeah, I mean, Terrifier 3, I thought it was really, really fun. I think it's the movie that I've liked the best in the franchise so far because it seemed like the most fun to me, and because we got some really nice lore bits, like especially towards the end. And I'm just like, it makes me, I don't want to say anything too spoilery just in case there's somebody out there that hasn't seen it, but all that biblical stuff is really like coming to a head. And it would be interesting to see. I'm just like, Terrifier 4 could be friggin' wild.
Yeah. Damien says 1 to 2 more movies. I say 2 more movies and call it a day. Start to plan what's next. But you open the door, you really have to explore this way past, well, he's a devil. No, we need to get in deeper with this. There's a battle going on there. Take us there. Take us there.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, I don't know, did you ever watch the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show? So
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of like where that show ends up going. I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh, I kind of see this becoming like a literal like battle between like heaven and hell,
Yeah.
kind of
The good and
like,
evil aspect.
yeah. And I'm just like, this could get really fun. And yeah, I'm actually starting out with the first one. I was like, man, this movie seems excruciatingly long because there's no story really.
Hmm.
Great music, great effects, all that stuff is awesome. The acting, other than David Howard Thornton in that first movie, is like, eh. In the second movie, I was like, oh, this is way better. I like some of these characters. The performances are getting there, but it's very, very long. And
Yeah.
then this one was like that, with I'm like Goldilocks. The Terrifier 3 was just right. So yeah, it's one of those things where, and being a Christmas movie, I thought there was like a lot of really great,
Hmm.
Christmas atmosphere there, and especially, those big bulbs that they had back in the 70s and 80s and all,
The
just
pepper
like
lights.
it
Yeah.
just reminds me of those. Like I love all that gaudy kind of Christmas stuff that I grew up with. It's very, it just brings you back.
Hmm.
And I felt like that the Terrifier 3 Terrifier 3 kind of had that feel, a little bit of that old timey Christmas feel a little bit.
Yeah. And good idea to bring it out when they did. So by the time it's Christmas time now, you're gonna get your
Yeah,
streaming, your premium VOD, your physical
yeah.
release. So good marketing.
And planned it perfectly, and it's probably going to go make a bunch of money. I think they're doing it on Christmas Eve and Christmas. I think they're putting it back out.
Oh, really? I didn't
It's
hear
doing
that.
it's doing a limited run like right around Christmas.
Smart.
So how many
Smart.
people are going to go watch Nosferatu and then just go get it,
Yeah.
buy 2 tickets and do a little double feature? That's the way us sicko horror fans are.
That's just like AMC movie theaters. They have a no talking, no sing along kind of thing. And
Mhm.
everyone's like, but the number one movie in the country is, with Wicked. I'm like, if
Mhm.
they're smart, they'll wait a couple weeks, get the initial moviegoers, and then release a sing along version or sing
Sure.
along showing where
Yeah.
they just bend the rules and, hey, you want to sing with Ariana and Cynthia? Go ahead. You could do
Yeah,
it. That's
you could do
marketing.
that exactly every day of the week. You could have that. Hey, this showing the 6:30 is the sing along or whatever, or do a
Yeah.
matinee. So it's like come on hang out at 4 p.m. and sing along with everyone.
Yeah.
I tell if they put out, I'm a big Little Shop of Horrors fan. It's one of my favorites and my
Mhm.
favorite musical. Easy. If they put that back out in theaters or I was able to see it, it would be like you would have to duct tape my mouth shut, KB, because I'd be like just wanting to sing every little bit of that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. You know what? Frank Oz's directing job on that movie is something else. Like he is.
Unexpected.
You didn't expect
Unexpectedly
it?
good. No, I didn't
Yeah.
expect. Frank Oz. I think Yoda. I don't think. Hey, we're gonna do a doo-wop style '50s Broadway musical, and
Yeah.
it's really gonna be great, whether you've seen the Broadway musical or not. So,
Yeah. It's
pleasantly
I
surprised.
love that. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, let's see here. What we've been talking for, holy cow, about an hour and 40 minutes or so. This has been
I
a
love
good
it.
one.
I love it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man, we'll have to get together again sometime soon. Of course, whenever you want to tackle Evil Dead, just you know how to get a hold of me, and I'll be there.
We gotta have you on the conversation first and foremost.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, stuff is opening up for me, probably sometime in January for sure.
Okay.
So, at whatever point we can start planning that out and getting a little something going.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been awesome, man. Really appreciate you hopping on with me. I love when so, we picked a pretty broad topic, but
Mhm.
being able to sort of veer like in and out of the topic has been really fun. And yeah, it's been great getting to know you here a little bit.
Same here, man.
Now I know what a mariachi drink is, and I've got something to think about the next time I'm at the store. And
Yeah. Make some mariachis, you know.
And we didn't even talk about the fact that Juan Soto is going to go play for a team that's never going to win anything ever again.
Talk about, everyone points at the Yankees, but there are other teams spending just as much money. I think they're
Yeah.
third overall.
Yeah.
So
It always
keep that in
it always
mind, haters.
yeah, it always cracked me up when the Yankees were like in their heyday and everyone was like, they buy everyone, and I was like, look at how much the Red Sox spend. They spend four million less, and when you're talking about $400 million, that's not very much.
Yeah.
You know,
The Mets spend more than the Yankees, but they're about to spend a whole lot more, so I hope he's worth it.
we'll see. He can hit the ball. I guess there's that. He's making more than Shohei, and Shohei can do a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Well, we almost escaped not talking about Juan Soto.
Almost.
But I had to bring it up. Look at me.
Yeah,
really appreciate you so much, KB. Guys, if you have not yet checked out KB Loves Movies, links are in the description below for his YouTube, Insta, and Twitter, so you can go follow him there. Check out his videos. Think about throwing him a sub. If you're a content creator yourself, then reach out. He's a lovely guy and doing collaborations all the time over there on his channel. Anything coming up really soon that we should prime everyone for and get everyone ready for?
This is usually about the time that I start to land the plane. I have one more conversation scheduled, and talking about being on panels and meeting interesting people. There's this guy named Harrison, and Harrison looks like he's just turning 20. He's older than that. He's almost 30, but he's an old soul, and he has a channel called Really Old Movies, REELY.
All
and
right.
he talks about classic films, not just the ones that you know, but ones that you want to know. And I just want to know more about dude. So he's coming up on a conversation soon. And then I'm probably going to just shut it down for the holidays. Like I mentioned before, I have kids in 20s, and the whole shift from when you can't go anywhere without your kids to when your kids are nowhere to be found is that when they come around, you just want to spend all the possible time. And they know me, they see what's behind me, and they're like, hey, let's watch a movie. And I don't feel like talking to anybody else when they say that. So
yeah,
spend some time with family.
Awesome.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
Hell yeah. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome Christmas season here, and that you have fun picking out your cheesy Christmas horror movie to watch as well. Of course, give the family all my best. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and
same to you.
Let's cook a little something up for 2025. Hell yeah.
Most def.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, KB. Really appreciate you, man. Have a great rest of your night, and good luck hydrating.
Thank you. Go watch a movie, everyone. Take care. All right, man.
All right, everybody. Holy cow. What a fun time talking to KB. It's always the first like 20 minutes or so. I'm still thinking about like running the interview and everything like that. And then the next thing I know, I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been talking for over an hour and a half. Where would a blabbermouth like me be without YouTube? I just don't know, folks. But yeah, really want to thank KB again for hanging out with us. That was awesome, chit-chatting with him about, the movies that made us fall in love with film, and then kind of bouncing all around to whatever we wanted to talk about with film. Guys, go check out KB Loves Movies. Links are in the description below. Show him some love. I see a lot of you guys have already subbed to his channel. That's awesome. Jamie was saying he's really close to 1,000 subs, which is a huge moment. It would be really cool to do everything that we can do to, put a dent in that margin there and get him closer to 1,000. So let's see, 943 as it stands. Excuse me. 943. That's dangerously close. Guys, can we share? Let's, everybody out there who's feeling the Christmas spirit, share KB's channel with somebody in your life that is either a lover of film or a lover of horror film. That's just 57 subs. I think let's get KB to 1,000 That would be a really cool way to celebrate and ring in the new year, right? Let's get him to 1K. Let's do everything we can. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hell yeah. Let's see here. Brett Patrick saying great conversation. Thank you so much, Brett. Really appreciate that. Aaron says if Nosferatu and Terrifier 3 dominate the box office on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, it should be dubbed Art for Atu in homage to Barbenheimer. There, dude, Aaron, you have made it happen, dude. Every channel that you watch, drop something very similar to this comment. Socials, all that stuff, make it happen, bud, because that's a good idea. Art for Atu. I can't think of anything better. You know, that nothing else would be better. Like Nas. Yeah, you can't mix Nosferatu with Terrifier, or at least I can't do it on the fly. But Art for Atu, I'm into that one. It's true, Big Rod. Parting is such sweet sorrow, you know. And it's one of those things, you know. When I bring on a guest, sometimes there are time constraints. A lot of times people are just like, yeah, let's just like talk until whenever. I like to, you know, it's sort of like jamming with somebody. You just want to like sense when the time is to either change the conversation or when it's a healthy time to, you know, you want to leave them wanting more. Kind of like, you know, George from Seinfeld. You get that one joke that cracks everyone up, and then you just got to get out of the room. That is it. So I felt like we had a good moment there to let KB enjoy the rest of his first night back. He's got some Criterion editions to tear into out there at his home, and maybe watch a little something tonight. There you go. Share it with your other phone. Boom. There it is. Let's see here. I'll sub after the show or tomorrow because I'm getting tired. No worries, Raymond. Yeah, if you guys, if you return to the video, the link will be in the description below. So feel free to hop on. All right. Let's see here. Let's Wicked with Gladiator. You want to mix that one, Paula? Gladiated. That's what we're gonna call Wicked mixed with Gladiator. Gladiator 2, although the commercials only call it Gladiator, I've noticed that. It's almost like they're ashamed. They're trying to trick you into thinking it's the original movie. I don't know. I mean, the original movie did win Best Picture, so not a bad marketing strategy. Yeah, guys, this has been really great. I might just kick it for another few minutes. I've been really active on the channel ever since I was able to start recovering with my whole eye issue. I've been missing you guys, so it's been fun to jump back in and get more active. Guys, if you are relatively new to the channel, or if you weren't here last year, last December, I reviewed all of the Black Christmas movies in reverse order, and I've been sharing those on the community tab. I've been sort of giving them a little spit shine, new thumbnail, new title, new coat of paint there. So I just shared, if you check the community tab, last week I had shared my Black Christmas 2019 review. Woo! And then tomorrow I'll be just resharing the my Black Christmas 06 review, which is a film that I like quite a bit. You know, it doesn't touch the original, but I think it gets a lot of hate that you know, I don't think is very warranted. So I won't say anything else, but keep an eye out for that. Also, you know, we recently watched Black Christmas 74 and then read those half-star reviews just last night. That was a hoot. If you missed that one, you're going to want to go back and check it out for sure. Yeah, and really what I wanted to ask you guys too, you know, somebody had mentioned, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was Gory Tiger, I'm not sure, about the 28 years later trailer, if I was going to do like a reaction to that. Guys, are you interested in me doing a 28 years later trailer reaction? I'm sort of on the fence about doing reactions to trailers and all that kind of stuff because it's not something, you know, I did it for a little bit and then I sort of took a break. I know I brought this up at the beginning of the stream as well, but guys, if you are interested in seeing me, you know, react to that trailer, I've not yet watched it, so I can put that together for you guys. And then I was even thinking about putting a little something together for the Evil Dead news. I might be, you guys know that I don't follow every little bit of horror news and all that stuff, but when there's something I'm really passionate about or something that I'm just really excited about, you know, I think I might start sort of a series and just follow the Evil Dead film news as it develops. Might be kind of fun. Now that we have a title, what Sebastian Vanacek had to say about his approach to the movie got me really excited. So if you guys are interested in a video on that, I can sort of start that news segment on the Evil Dead. And what else? Oh, I'm a huge Castlevania fan. You guys know it's one of my favorite video game. I would say it is my favorite video game series. And I've really enjoyed the animated TV show on Netflix. And I just saw some news drop about Castlevania Nocturne Season 2. They've got a trailer. Haven't watched it. So if you guys are interested in seeing me cover something like that, let me know. I love going live with you guys all the time, but when it comes to pre-recorded stuff, I want to make sure I'm spending my time well. So I'm going to close out the poll here really quick so I don't forget at the last second like I always do. So the question in the poll is, are you pumped for 28 years later? We have 38 votes. 74% say yes, it looks amazing. 26% say nah, not really into that series. So that's pretty encouraging right there. That's a pretty wide margin. Speaking of wide margins, I put out a poll for which Christmas comedy we should watch here this weekend, and holy crap, out of like 70 some votes, Home Alone. By the way, thank you to everyone who voted. That's a lot of votes. That's really cool to see that engagement and interaction with you guys. It's really, really cool. 54% of those votes went to Home Alone. So we're going to be watching the original Home Alone this weekend on Saturday. I've got the stream built and everything, so you guys can set the notification for that if you'd like. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that, especially since so many of you really, really want to watch it. It's not even close to being a dead heat. Well, it's a dead heat for last between Elf and Just Friends. That's the dead heat that's going on there. Let's see your reaction to 28 years right now. Prince, I would consider doing it live, but YouTube prefers if I do it pre-recorded and release it as its own thing, it's going to have more legs to it. It'll also be a shorter video, which will be nice. And just by chance that there's any copyright issue with any little part of it, I don't want it to end the stream here tonight or give the stream any issues down the line. So it would be something that I would do separate for sure. All right. Looks like everyone is into that. At least everyone that's responding. Not really into it, but I'd tune in for it. All right. I'm going to watch it regardless, but trailers these days are risky. Yeah, and I haven't really heard anything about, I haven't watched anyone else's video on it because I've been thinking about doing my own. So whenever I review something, I try to, wait until I've had my own experience and not, I don't want to have my opinion informed by something that someone else would say. Because I can always watch it after, right? There we go. Prince says anime is my blood. Go for it. Yeah, maybe I should watch more anime, but being that it's Castlevania, it sucked me right in. I loved that original series, just everything about it. I've watched it a few times now, and I really like Nocturne. I love seeing Richter out there. It's cool stuff. I'm a big, I wasn't able to play Rondo of Blood as a kid because it was a Japanese only release for the TurboGrafx CD, which was a system that not many people, I don't know if I knew anyone in my hometown that had that system. But it was Japanese only. It never came over. So when I got the original Wii from Nintendo, I was able to purchase Rondo of Blood, which is an amazing Castlevania game. One of the best. It's pre-Symphony of the Night, but it has a lot of those elements mixed with a little like Simon's Quest, and then of course the original Castlevania as well. But yeah, it was really cool to see Richter in that show, and I'm a big old Castlevania nerd, so I might just do it to do it. Home Alone is like one of 3 Blu-rays I own. That's awesome, Big Rod. It's really good. I think it stands up. I know some people are like, it's not even a Christmas movie, and it's just like, oh, come on. Like, are you just trying to sound interesting without being intelligent about it? Because there are massive Christmas themes in Home Alone. Like, I mean, other than the fact that, sure, his whole family leaves for a Christmas trip, okay? So that's a huge part. So the foundation of the plot is why the family leaves. But there are those, there's Christmas music. There's a whole bunch of Christmas themes as far as lessons that can be learned. And, of course, reconciliation, with loved ones around the holidays. That's a big Christmas theme that we see in a lot of movies. Even Die Hard's got that, and a lot of people say that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I would imagine it works as a Christmas movie, sure. But yeah, it cracks me up when people are like, Home Alone's not a Christmas movie. What the hell? What the hell? Billy Judd says Home Alone has John Candy, who starred as Uncle Buck with Macaulay Culkin. Yep. Oh, yeah. The late, great John Candy. Just so natural and charming and heartwarming. And I don't know. There's something about him. You just want to root for him, you know? And in Home Alone, I'm like, did he just like riff all of his dialogue? Like, was any of this actually written? Was it like a vague outline? Like when he starts telling stories to Kevin's mom in the box truck, and he's talking about like all the, you know, his bandmates and everything, and he's talking about the traumatic incident that happened with his kid. It all seems like John Candy's just sort of making it up as he goes. Big Rod, you know, even though I don't have a lot of experience with anime, I have seen Ninja Scroll and Vampire Hunter D. Yeah. Those are both really, really good for sure. You know, and honestly, the reason why I haven't watched as much is just because I'm not exposed to very much, I guess. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't have somebody in my life that's really into it that, you know, is showing me the newer stuff or some of the older stuff that I've missed. You know, I have seen like Akira and you know, classics like that. But yeah, you know, it's just one of those things that's just kind of an honest blind spot. But when it's mixed in with something that I'm already interested in, like Castlevania, it's a friggin' no-brainer all the way. I always wanted, ever since I was like 6 years old or 7 years old, and I was playing the original 2 Castlevania games. Like at that point, I was like, I want to make a Castlevania movie when I grow up, and I would like think about what the story would be and all that kind of silly stuff. Because it would be cool for there to be a live-action Castlevania. It almost seems like, did you guys remember that Van Helsing movie that Hugh Jackman was in? You know, and Kate Beckinsale, is she in that one as well? She's in like, if it has a vampire in it, Kate Beckinsale has to be in it. That movie, to me, I was sort of like, this is like a Castlevania movie. It's just called Van Helsing. It definitely had that kind of vibe, you know, that vampire hunter kind of vibe. Oh yeah. No, I watched those. I think I watched Ninja Scroll right before the Kill Bill Volume 1 came out, because I was I was living with some buddies in Montana, and we had heard that Ninja Scrolls was like a big inspiration. I don't know if it was like an interview or something, but Quentin was talking about Ninja Scrolls, and so we checked it out before we went and saw, you know, the weeks or months leading up to Kill Bill Volume 1. Dragon's Dogma on Netflix is good. All right. And what about that? Wasn't there a Terminator anime that just came out? Have you guys seen that Terminator? I think it's a Japanese production. Is that Netflix as well? I mean, I love like the dark Terminator stuff. The first Terminator is easily my favorite film in that franchise. So if it's dark Terminator, then I'm into it. Yeah, Home Alone has a great spider scream. Yeah, Daniel Stern's voice, man, he's hilarious. And then I noticed the last time I watched it, I was like, are they low-key trying to like let us know that Marv is like a stoner, but they don't want us to see him ever hit a joint. But sometimes there's just a look on his face, and I know that look because I make it. It just kind of occurred to me. We'll talk about it more when we have the watch party here this weekend. Yeah, Paula, you are right. Trump was in Home Alone too. He lets little Kevin McAllister know where the front desk is. I think that's what it is, right? Yeah. And Paula, you were asking earlier what time the Home Alone watch party will be. I already forgot, so let me take a look. It's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern, Paula, on Saturday. I hope is that time okay with everyone? Let me know. I always want to have as much involvement as we can with you guys. So yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern Saturday. So if you click on the link, Paula, it'll tell you what time in your time zone that you can watch. Yeah, it's absurd, Jamie. It's absolutely absurd. People will say anything on Twitter, right? I'm pretty sure. Carol of the Bells is literally part of the Home Alone score. Yeah. I mean, everything with the the old guy that lives down the street or whatever, lives next door. Everything with that is all like really heartwarming Christmas stuff, you know? Yeah, they're the ones giving Black Christmas half a star. There you go, Big Rod. That's a good point. Are you just trying to be controversial for the sake of it? You're no iconoclast. Get out of here. Death Note. I've heard good things about that. I love Van Helsing. I watch it every December. I think I saw it in the theater, Jamie. That's my Jamie Hart quote of the night. But I don't think I've seen it since. And I mean, that kind of thing is right up my alley. I should definitely watch it again because I do like it. I know it is sort of over the top, but I think that's kind of the point. It's sort of like Indiana Jones meets The Mummy meets Bram Stoker's Dracula kind of thing. And Kate Beckinsale. Say no more. There you go. All right. Prince says it's underrated too. I should check it out again. Should watch it more. Yeah, that must have been really tough for Daniel Stern then. Shout out to Daniel Stern, who was the narrator on Wonder Years, and his brother David was a big part of The Simpsons for a really long time. For all I know, maybe he's back because a lot of those guys have come and gone and come and gone. Boom. There you go. Anytime, any place. Well, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Jamie did not see Van Helsing. So it must have been during that time where she was having babies and couldn't go to, 15 movies a week. What a sad time in your life that must have been, Jamie. I kid. What are we looking at? 2 hours and 16 minutes. We are getting there, folks. I think it's time for me to go finish my dinner. Maybe watch The Substance, Smile 2. There's a few I gotta catch up on. Or Silent Night, Deadly Night. If that's streaming anywhere, that's the one. Because GD it's Christmas, and we're all in misery. So yeah, I should watch that one and just be able to check that right off the list. Yeah, guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for kicking it here with myself and with KB Loves Movies. Another shout out to KB as well for being such a lovely guest this evening. Links in the description below. Let's do everything we can to get him to hit that 1,000 sub mark by the end of the year. I think that would be an awesome reason to pop an extra bottle of champagne on New Year's Eve. And yeah, guys, I might be back tomorrow. I don't know. Let's see if I can think of an idea for a stream. Maybe I'll put out a poll and let you guys decide, or you can comment on this video once we're done with the stream and let me know what you want to see tomorrow. But for sure, this weekend, Friday, I'll be back with we're going to watch Never Hike in the Snow. That'll be really fun for a little Friday the 13th action. And hopefully we have some news from the Crystal Lake TV show, folks. If we don't, then I'm very, very concerned. And you bet your ass I'm going to be hopping on here and talking about that for sure. I want to thank all the Patreon members, all of the channel members. Of course, you guys are awesome. You fuel everything we do here at the channel. You help us keep the lights on, pay some bills. It's amazing. Thank you so much to Frank Riker for the $5 super chat earlier. And of course, Toronto Freddy for the $5 Canadian super chat. I'm interested to see what that conversion rate is like. Also got the little Venmo there. If for whatever reason at some point you're like, you know what, I'm going to throw Davey $5 so we can go get something or help pay a bill, whatever. No requirement at all. But if you're feeling it, then feel free. I want to thank all the Death Squad mods here tonight. Jamie Hart and Cody Snyder and Brooke Scarlett, I believe, were in the house tonight, making sure everything was running smoothly. Every now and then we get a couple weirdos in here. So really appreciate you guys holding it down. So pumped to see Raymond back in the chat hanging out with us. I'm glad you are on that road to recovery, Raymond. And, thank you so much for coming back to us as soon as you were able. And yeah, I hope everything goes smooth here for you, as you go through that recovery. All right, everyone, that's going to be it for me this time around. I'm not forgetting the poll. We already closed that out. All right, sweet. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Really appreciate it. You guys mean the world to me. This community is there for me when I'm feeling down. It's something for me to look forward to when the day is tough. And yeah, I'm going to be leaning on you in the good times and in the bad. So really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jamie. Yes, don't forget to smash that like, subscribe to the channel, join the Death Squad for members-only content, and if you're watching this on replay, leave a comment. There we go. I can do my own commercials, folks. All right, y'all. You know what? Until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.